Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Real, unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
And away we go, ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages. It is Friday, and the Rob Brown Show is underway. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen. Great to have you. Happy Friday to you. You have made it through yet another week, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, indeed, and it is almost time for our final football weekend. It's so sad. It's so sad. I hate it so much. It makes me want to cry on the inside. Like, the hard hands, heartbreak hands. That's how bad this is. It stinks. We got the NFC Championship game. We've got the AFC Championship game. Then we've got the Pro Bowl. And then just like that, amigos and amiguettes, just like that, our season comes to its conclusion. It is painful. I hate every second of it. But the good news is, on the Rob Brown Show, ain't no off seasons, baby. We roll from football season into basketball season. Then we roll into basketball and baseball season. We got NASCAR. We got soccer. We got wrestling. We got MMA all off season. There is no off season. No, there ain't no off season on this show. That being said, we got to dive into football very heavily on the radio broadcast today. And we will, in just mere moments from now, actually, it's going to be a lot of fun. I am Rob Brown. The pleasure exclusively mine. Good morning to all of you, you degenerates. Great to have you this early in the AM. The great one's still a little under the weather. Getting his proverbial, metaphorical, and yes, literal ass kicked right now. He will hopefully rejoin us next week. But in the meantime, we go to the bullpen. We call in the righty. Bring it high heat, tight it inside. My dog, Brandon, in the house filling in. What's up, fella?
What's good, everybody?
How you doing, buddy?
I'm hanging in. Hey, it's Friday. Let's go.
You got a new head coach, pal.
That's right. We do. I'm ready to hear about it. Come on, Rob.
New head coach, Raheem Morris.
Share the wealth, brother.
In for the ATL. And we're going to talk about it at length. As a matter of fact, coming up at 9:20 this morning, my guy, Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. He is the host of the Abe TL Show, my favorite named radio show. And yes, that does include this one. Abe Gordon going to join us on the broadcast later on. Looking forward to talking about that. But of course, we got a show here too. And we're going to give you our thoughts. And my thoughts on Atlanta is this. Falcons fans, relax, okay? It could have been way worse. You could have hired Bill Belichick. And, I got to tell you, I said on the show earlier this week when Hoodie got his second interview, as a football guy, that's a terrible decision. As a football guy, hiring Bill Belichick would have been the absolute worst call that you could have made. As a Saints fan, I really wish that's what you would have done. As a Saints fan, I would have loved to have seen you hire the Hoodie. I would have loved to have seen you hire the Hoodie. And I would have loved to have seen you hire the Hoodie because he's a dinosaur. His process is archaic. His control style has already proven to have been a failure. Now, the reason that's interesting, and don't worry, Panther fans, I'm coming to you momentarily. You got your guy too. The interesting thing between him and Raheem Morris is this. If you consider Raheem Morris's time as the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and you will all remember, I assume, that Raheem Morris has actually been the coach of the Atlanta Falcons before. Because back in 2020, when Dan Quinn got canned by the ATL, Raheem Morris was the interim head coach. He went 4-7 down the stretch as the HC, but he was not retained in that role by Arthur Blank and the Falcons. If you combine those two head coaching tenures for Raheem Morris, he actually has a lower win percentage than Bill Belichick without Tom Brady. If you just look at the dubs and L's since the GOAT left Foxborough, Raheem Morris has actually had a lower win percentage than Bill Belichick has had without Tom Brady. But I also think you have to point out the overwhelming majority of Raheem's games as a head coach came 13 years ago. Rob Brown was just a wee lad baby broadcaster down in the Florida Panhandle when Raheem Morris coached the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, a team, by the way, that I think took longer than any other team in recent history to bust the Super Bowl slump. In fact, I would argue they didn't really bust the Super Bowl slump. I would argue they still haven't busted the Super Bowl slump. They're division champs because our division, and this is scientifically true, sucks. That's why they busted the slump. I don't hate the hire for you, Brandon. I don't. And I don't hate the hire because defensively, your team's got a lot of talent. Offensively, skill position-wise, except at the quarterback spot, your team has arguably as much talent, if not more, than everybody else in the division as a whole. So the only question mark here, and I'll get your thoughts. We'll get Abe Gordon's thoughts coming up at 9:20. The only question mark is who's the offensive coordinator going to be? Ooh. I think Atlanta lives and dies by who they hire as the OC. And there's good news, bad news. The good news is with the hiring of Canellis in Carolina, the hiring of Raheem Morris, and the fact that Mike Vrabel is still out there, and I can't imagine a world in which Mike Vrabel doesn't have a job as a head coach next year. There are going to be possibly some big-name OCs available out there after all of the head coaching gigs are filled. Now, that does not mean that any of them are going to move, are going to want to move, but I think if you're Atlanta, you've got to pitch. We've got Pitts, we've got London, we've got Robinson, we've got Algier, we've got all this talent here. Now we just need an OC who wants those weapons to play with, and if you can get one of those guys to leave where they are and come to the ATL, I think Atlanta's got a real opportunity to chase down Tampa Bay next year and take a step ahead of both Carolina and New Orleans. What do you think, Brendan?
Ooh, and that's coming from a New Orleans Saints fan.
I hate a Falcon. I
need to represent that well. Let's rise up. So I agree with you. We are going to live and breathe by who is our OC. You know, there is reports, and I think it's kind of funny that Arthur Smith is actually being taunted as far as a potential replacement for several teams as the new offensive coordinator. That's going to be a joke if you are going to take him. I'm sorry if you take him because he is not a very good player. He gets his plays off of Madden. Everybody believes that in the entire state of Georgia. One person in particular, he said that I guess that Arthur Smith gets his plays off of Madden 19. I said 09 because going back to the whole run game, Atlanta is built for a spread offense, hands down. And then the question also is who is going to be our quarterback? Because Desmond Ridder is a choke artist. Every team loves him because you know why they love him, Rob? They're gonna get the ball from Desmond Ridder no matter what. Every team knows that. Because he must think their jerseys look really pretty with a football on it, so he throws the football to them.
That last game, New Orleans-Atlanta, a game that very much either one of us with some help from Carolina, the winner of Atlanta-New Orleans could have theoretically won the NFC South. And remember
crazy. That
Tampa game, a 9-0 slugfest in Charlotte. In that game between the Atlanta Falcons and the New Orleans Saints, Atlanta was in that game till halftime. And it wasn't until the second half that New Orleans made the defensive adjustments that just made Atlanta look miserable in the second half, took the ball away a couple of times, punched it in, of course, ran up the score, and Arthur Smith was not a happy camper about that.
It's also Desmond Ridder.
Exactly. But you were in that game. You were in that game until you weren't. And I think that has been the story of Atlanta. Like, they find ways to hang around, and then there were no adjustments. Desmond Ridder went Desmond Ridder. And once that happened, that's where people started pulling away from the ATL. You get the right OC. And I'm going to tell you now, if I'm Atlanta, every bit of draft capital I have, every tradable asset that I have, it all goes into finding a franchise QB. And I don't know who it's going to be, but I'll tell you right now, I'll tell you what terrifies the hell out of me right now. As a Saints fan, as an NFL fan, the thing that scares me the most right now with Atlanta sitting there, you guys are at draft pick, what, number 8?
9.
8, 8 or 9, whatever it is.
Yeah, no, it's the number 8 because we've had it for 3 years in a row.
8 pick, you're behind Tennessee. Let me tell you what scares the hell out of me. That you guys end up with Jaden Daniels out of LSU.
Oh, I would love him.
Scares the hell out of me because Jaden Daniels in that offense with Robinson, with Pitts, with London, assuming all these guys are Falcons next year, if you can get Jaden Daniels, if I'm sitting at 8, if I'm Atlanta, I'm on the phone right now with number 5, LA. I'm going, yo, let me move up. I'm on the phone with number 4, Arizona right now. I'm saying, yo, let me move up. I'm on the phone with New England right now, right? Now, I don't think New England is going to move because I think with Belly moving on, I think Mac Jones is probably done, and they're probably in the look for a quarterback. I think Washington is probably on the hunt for a quarterback. The worst thing that can happen for Atlanta is that Williams, Daniels, and Drake May come off the board 1, 2, 3, and the top 3 quarterbacks are gone. There's still some more QBs out there that are probably more project quarterback than week 1 ready QBs. But the scariest thing for the rest of the National Football League, or at least the NFC South, would be if Atlanta finds their way up into the 4th or the 5th spot and Jaden Daniels falls. And I'll tell you right now, I think of the quarterback list right now, the 3 that we just mentioned anyway, Caleb Williams, Drake May, and Jaden Daniels. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be a superstar. I get Lamar vibes off of Jaden Daniels, right?
I have that feeling too.
When Lamar Jackson came out of Louisville, you keep in mind, Lamar was drafted, like 34th overall in that draft. When Lamar Jackson came out of Louisville, this is a point of pride for me in my career. Always has been. I very rarely stick a pin in a dude's profile and go, this guy is a superstar. Very, very rarely. There are more superstars than there are guys that Rob Brown went, this is a superstar.
He was number 32.
32. Yep. Okay. I stuck a pin in Lamar Jackson when he got drafted. I said, this guy's a superstar. I watched what that cat did at Louisville. I watched what that dude did with the Cardinals. And I went, this guy is a bona fide, genuine superstar. Watch him play. And he has been. Granted, the narrative has been that he can't win the big one, but here he is, dog, in the AFC title game. And if he knocks off Patrick Mahomes this weekend, that narrative is DED dead, my man. In which case, Lamar, to me, will ascend into levels of superstardom that I always thought that he would. This is Jaden Daniels. This is the first guy at quarterback since Lamar that I am willing to say this cat's going to be a superstar, right? Like this guy is going to be a dude, which is why if I'm Atlanta, honestly, I'll tell you, I was hoping we're not going to get him at 14. He's not. I was hoping he would land in Atlanta. I'm hoping that end in New Orleans. I was hoping. Because there's a narrative about Jaden Daniels out there, right? And I don't understand it. I have no idea how in the hell there are draft experts that have Drake May listed above Jaden Daniels. Respect to Drake May. He is not as good as Jaden Daniels, all right? Good precision arm, not nearly every other tool in the tool set. And Jaden Daniels has got a cannon. So
he has a cannon like Mike Vick did.
Yeah, he is. In fact, I can go back to I do a show on Saturday called Bet for the Cycle, myself and Cody Decker. It's a nationally syndicated gambling show that airs from noon to 4 on the BetQL network. Some of you may have heard about it. And I can go back to week 0 of college football. I was on the air with Deck on a Saturday, and we got to talking about this, and we were giving our Heisman bets. Who's your favorite Heisman bet? And I said preseason, when he was like 25-1, I was like, take a paycheck, put it on Jaden Daniels. Cody Decker was like, no chance. He's a Pac-12 guy. He's like, no chance. It's Caleb Williams. He's going back-to-back. I was like, well, aside from the fact that nobody's gone back-to-back since Archie Griffin, no, he's not. No, he's not, because Jaden Daniels is him.
He's the most complete player.
100%. Not even close, in my opinion. And I said, even if LSU is I can go back and pull the tape. I said, even if LSU finishes the regular season at 9-3, this guy will still win the Heisman, because without him, they're 6-6. Without him, they're 5-7. I believe that. I said he is good for 4 wins by himself. They may lose 2 or 3 because they're in the SEC West, and that's a damn fine football division. But this guy's Heisman Trophy caliber, this guy will have a Michael Vick-ish season. And Deck looked into the camera and was like, this is the first time I've ever questioned your ability to talk football. And then the night of the Heisman Trophy celebration, when LSU's number 5, Jaden Daniels, won the damn thing, you better believe the next Saturday, I dunked on Cody Decker like I was Shaq and he was Muggsy. That's what it was, all right? This is the first guy since Lamar that I am putting a circle around and going, bona fide, genuine superstar. I had hoped he would fall to 14 in New Orleans. I think because of the Heisman run, there's no chance he makes it there. And unfortunately, we don't have the room or the capital to move up. Atlanta freaking does. And I will tell you right now, if you guys land, and I mean this, Brandon, and it pains me in every part of my body.
Wait. I got to record this. He's going to love my Falcons, y'all.
Listen, I'm going to say what it is, all right? I tell you every single show, when I sit behind this microphone, I consider myself to have an obligation. It is to take the fan cap or the hater cap off and to be a good football knower. So as a knower of ball, let me just say this. If you guys hit on a good OC and you guys move up and grab Jaden Daniels,
watch out.
Atlanta wins the division next year.
Oh, yeah.
Hands down, not a question. Dennis Allen sucks. Dennis Allen is so bad that he dragged. I think Derek Carr is fine. I think he's fine. I think he's adequate. Do I think he's a stud? No, but I think he's fine. I just think he and Pete Carmichael dragged it, which should have been a very good New Orleans offense, into the dregs the last 2 years, and we kept him. Great job, Mick. Anyway, if Atlanta ends up with a decent OC and Jaden Daniels, you will win the division next year. Hands down, not a question in my mind. But will Arthur Blank make the moves? That's the big question we got to ask. All right. Coming up on the show today, ladies and gentlemen, we got a lot we got to get into. We will talk, obviously, a lot more about the ATL Falcons as they've got their new head coach coming up at 9:20 a.m. Abe Gordon of 92.9 The Game out of the ATL will join us to talk about the hiring of Raheem Morris. I am working right now. I know that he was on yesterday. And I know we don't often double dip interviews, but Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast, he is my go-to guy to talk Panther ball. Dave Canellis, former Tampa Bay offensive coordinator. He is a former Tampa Bay offensive coordinator because he is now the current Carolina Panther head coach. So when we come back in a minute, let's talk a little bit about Dave Canellis. Let's talk about who he is, where he came from, what he's done, and how he got the job. And why Panther fans that are worried about him have a valid point, and why Panther fans that aren't worried about him have a valid point. My name is Rob Brown. My dog Brandon is filling in for the great one today. We got to take a break. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
Never miss a big moment with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Relive big moments. It's Rewind on the Fan Upstate.
Dan Scott here inviting you to join Tom Ben Hoy and me for all the action of Furman basketball, and you'll hear all the action here on the Fan Upstate on 97.7 FM Greenville, 97.1 in Spartanburg, and online, the Odyssey app. Search the Fan Upstate.
How's the sound, you guys on the stream? Can y'all hear everything? We good?
Center. Here's the Carolinas' most trusted forecast on the Fan
Let
Upstate.
me know if we're good.
Isolated rain showers possible today. Cloudy with a high near 71. Some showers and thunderstorms on Saturday with a high of 64, and showers will continue throughout Saturday night with a low of 51. And rain early Sunday. I'm meteorologist Kara Foster on the Fan Upstate. Currently, it's
Matthew, thank
degrees.
you, partner. Appreciate that, buddy. Thank you for being the official sound technician of the Rob Brown Show today.
Just a moment to tell you about the penny sale
Much
happening right
appreciated.
now at Smith & James Fine Men's Clothing. On select men's fall and winter wear, you buy one great piece at a great price. You get a second piece of equal or lesser value for just a penny.
Today,
and on top of that, their spring lines are starting to come out, so you can get a jump on an affordable, high-quality, long-lasting spring look only from our friends at Smith & James Fine Men's Clothing. Visit their shop at smithandjames.com or in Greenville or Greer since 1916. It is Smith & James Fine Men's Clothing.
When people have a craving to explore new and traditional Asian cuisines, they head to P.F. Chang's, where scratch-made dishes come from the 2,000-year-old tradition
Perfect.
of wok
Thank you, Marcus.
cooking.
Appreciate
P.F.
it, man.
Chang's wanted
You guys
to
are the best.
explore new
Thanks for letting us
possibilities
know.
for their website. They turned to
right.
AmericanEagle.com. AmericanEagle.com re-architected P.F. Chang's website, integrating multiple third-party systems to create a unified digital experience. The results? Improved page speed and performance, personalized content based on users' location, intuitive online ordering, an increase in organic search visibility, and a 40% increase in new users. For scratch-made Asian cuisine, visit your local P.F. Chang's or go to pfchangs.com for website design, development, digital marketing, and hosting that produce efficiency, revenue, and
Nailed it,
results.
Dave.
Visit AmericanEagle.com.
The under
P.F.
counts.
Chang's and
Book
AmericanEagle.com.
the under.
Another example of the best businesses in the world, turning to the best in the business for websites.
How y'all feel
go to
about,
AmericanEagle.com or call
the lines on
877-WEB-NOW-1.
Kansas City, San
That's 877-WEB-NOW-1.
Sponsored by ChumbaCasino.com. Play social games online for free. Head to ChumbaCasino.com now to join the Chumba fun and experience the thrill of the Chumba life.
I'm already white enough.
No purchase necessary. VGW Group. Void or prohibited by law. See terms and conditions. 18+.
Your guide to the gridiron, the maestro of the matchups and the keeper of all things cool in the sports world. This is the Rob Brown Show.
Oh, yeah. Lonzo's here, too.
This is the Fan Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show rolls on. It is the Fan Upstate. Rob and Brandon with you on this very early Friday morning. Dave Canellis is the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. He moves over from Tampa Bay, where he served as the offensive coordinator last year. Dave Canellis is a very interesting pick for this role. Dan Morgan is the new general manager for the Carolina Panthers, and let me tell you my biggest concern with his hire. There's a lot of good about Dave Canellis. Dave Canellis was in Seattle for 8 years. Under Dave Canellis, Russell, who was serving as the quarterback coach, not the offensive coordinator. But you remember when Russell Wilson kind of stagnated for a little while, and then he had that bounce-back season that led to the trade to the Denver Broncos? That was under Dave Canellis as the quarterback coach. Then 2 years ago, Geno Smith pops back up. Seattle find themselves backed into a corner. They traded Russell Wilson. They thought they were going to be able to talk a franchise quarterback into coming Seattle. They were not. They ended up having to trot Geno Smith back out there. All due respect to Geno Smith. I think he's been a perfectly acceptable NFL quarterback.
Mediocre.
Good enough.
Go ahead and say it. Mediocre.
Good enough. He's been good enough. They trotted Geno Smith out there. All of a sudden, 2 years ago, Geno Smith is like NFL comeback player of the year. Like, who the hell is this guy? Why? Dave Canellis was the quarterback coach that year. Then he goes down to Tampa Bay. Who's the quarterback of Tampa Bay this year? That would be one Baker Mayfield. You'll remember Baker Mayfield got the weight of the Cleveland Browns failure hung on him for no good reason at all. Then he goes to Carolina, where he plays for, I guess, kind of, Matt Rule. He stinks in Carolina. And half the Panther fans, not me, but half the Panther fans went, this is Baker's fault. What are we doing? This guy's junk. Get out of here. And they hang the failure of the Carolina Panthers on Baker Mayfield. So Baker Mayfield ends up down in Tampa Bay playing for the Buccaneers this year. Who's the offensive coordinator? Dave Canellis. And what does Baker Mayfield do under Dave Canellis? All Baker Mayfield did was lead a divisional championship, win a playoff game, and have the best year of his career. 4,044 passing yards, most in Bake's career. 28 touchdowns, most in a single season in Bake's career. 10 interceptions, fewest in a single season in Baker Mayfield's career. These are data-driven, all good things for Baker Mayfield. So, Rob Brown, you might ask, what is your hesitation? I'll go ahead and tell you. Hypothetical listener I made up exactly for this situation. My concern is this. This is a big jump for a guy who was an OC for a single year. And number two, I am terrified that this is a nepotism hire. What do you mean? Remember how I told you that Dave Canellis was the quarterback's coach in Seattle before he was promoted to OC in Tampa Bay? Do you know who he worked with for 8 years with in Seattle? That would be new Carolina Panthers general manager Dan Morgan. Dan Morgan was hired by the Seahawks as a scouting intern. He was promoted through the ranks all the way up, just a tick shy of general manager in Seattle before he got hired away to go be the assistant GM elsewhere, ultimately ended up in Carolina as the assistant GM, then promoted when Scott Fitterer lost his job into that office. Dan Morgan has just, you have to question, and I think it's fair to do so, hired a buddy. Now, that does not mean that Dave Canellis is going to be bad at the job. We can't know that yet. All we can do is speculate. But I'm going to say, if Dave Canellis' work as a quarterback's coach is the most important thing, then he's a good hire. He's a good hire. This is Adam Schefter yesterday. Now, Shefty was on the Pat McAfee show. And Shefty got asked, is David Tepper actually the GM, actually the head coach? Everybody else just figureheads. And how important is the relationship between David Tepper and Dave Canellis? And Shefty said this. He said forgetting to turn the mute button off. He said, and not having his, all right, I'm going to figure this out. Son of a gun. All right, listen, the point here, I know what I did wrong. I blame this on Chris. I do. I'll reset that. I'll get the sound. But Shefty got asked if the relationship between Tepper and Canellis could be good. Could it be good? And fingers crossed this works.
You know, you're bringing up Tepper and Dave Canellis and Dan Morgan. And Dave, to me, the biggest, most important relationship in that organization now, and it's not close, is the one between Dave Canellis and Bryce Young. Because this team mortgages its future on the quarterback that organization believes in and has the chance to grow into a good player. They need somebody who's going to nurture him, allow him to grow, and become the quarterback that they believed he was when they traded up and gave away all those picks to give up to get Bryce Young. And so that is the most important relationship in that organization now. You could take Tepper, you could take Moore, you can take any of these guys, but it's about Dave Canellis and Bryce Young and what they do together. And obviously the Panthers are very impressed with what he did this past year with Baker Mayfield. Dan Morgan knows him from his time in Seattle and knows the kind of attitude that he has.
All right. Now, as Lonzo isn't here, let me fill in and do his job for him, or at least do what he would do in this spot. It is Adam Schefter. And we all know the issues that Adam Schefter had not terribly long ago when it came out that Shefty, whenever he had news, would reach out to general managers and owners of NFL franchises and say, how would you like me to spin this for you? Right? I've got this news. I've got to break it, but how do you want it spun? How do you want me to read this to make it sound as good as possible? So, yes, I think you got to take what Schefter said here with a grain of salt. I think you've got to take what Schefter said here from the perspective of that's exactly what the Carolina Panthers want you to think. That Dave Tepper is going to be hands off. That Dave Tepper, he's going to let Canellis do his thing. And that this is about a guy who has had success with 3 consecutive quarterbacks, having success with a 4th, having success with a rookie. Marcus is in the stream right now, and he said, yeah, but Seattle and Tampa had at least 2 Pro Bowl wide receivers on their teams when he worked with those quarterbacks. Panthers don't even have a good wide receiver. And that is absolutely a sticking point. Absolutely a sticking point. There is not that guy. Adam Thielen is a 33-year-old slot wide receiver. He should not be WR1, and that's not a slight at Adam Thielen. That's like saying if you were running Shaq as a point guard, that's not what he's supposed to do. You can't get the best out of him, and it also means you don't have anybody good enough to play in that role, or you wouldn't be playing him there. You'd be playing him where he's supposed to be played. So, Carolina has a vested interest in finding a stud wide receiver, to the point that I would tell you, if I could move a Frankie Louvu or a Brian Burns in return for a Pro Bowl wide receiver, I'd do it without thinking about it. Trigger pulled immediately if I can send off one of my better defenders to be a Pro Bowl wide receiver down to Charlotte. That's the right move. We'll see if they end up doing something like that under Dan Morgan. But again, my concern about Dan Morgan, defensive guy, defensive roster builder. He may look at this defense and go, it's damn good. I'm not moving anybody, in which case you don't have any capital then because you got no draft moves. None at all. You can't. You got them all tied up in Bryce Young, in which case, if you trot the same offensive roster out next year, you're gonna, and this is also true, suck again. So, the Canellis hire is very interesting. Ian Rappaport is from the NFL Network. Ian Rappaport has been doing some interviews as well. He talked about the narrative that has been wrapped up around the hire of the Carolina Panthers head coach.
I would say what they are looking for as far as the head coach goes is someone to hold the players accountable. And I know that last year in Carolina, they didn't always think that, right? There were certain things that I think Tepper wanted and expected from a football coach and from an organization and from a football department and didn't get. So what I'm trying to figure out, and I think what candidates are trying to figure out is Tepper a meddling owner? I would say probably not. Did Tepper not see things coached to the standard that he wanted? Probably yes. And so there's a bunch of places where we thought owners were like meddling. Browns are a great example. Early on, everyone talked about Jimmy Haslam was hands-on. He wouldn't, he wanted his hands in every opportunity, whatever. And then they get the building right. They get a well-run place, and then you don't hear that anymore. So, like, I think, and obviously I know people there. I think that he just wants the place run right so he can go, okay, go.
So I don't have any issue with that at all, right? I got no issue with that at all. In fact, I will tell you, when I heard that Jimmy Haslam thought, I was like, very interesting, because that's actually very valid. When the Browns stank specifically, coincidentally enough, at the end of the Baker Mayfield tenure, the narrative around the Cleveland Browns is the Haslam family needs to stop. They got to stop. It's the exact same narrative around Dave Tepper. And then the Cleveland Browns went and they found Kevin Stefanski, and they started making some personnel moves, and they built a pretty good roster. And granted, I still don't understand why they went and got Deshaun Watson, but they paid $1 billion to Deshaun Watson. And before Watson showed up and both A stank and B got hurt a lot, it kind of felt like the Browns had put some pieces together and moved on. And we have not said the Haslam's name since then. And I think that I think Rappaport's probably got a point in that. That's what the dream scenario for Carolina is, right? It is get good enough, put together a good enough franchise that Dave Tepper eventually goes, I've done it, I'm good, and he gets the hell out of the way, all right?
But do you really think he's going to do that, though? Do you think he's going to step back and be like, no? Because I had this feeling that regardless of whatever you say on that part, he's going to come back and be like, no, I want this. And then he's going to try and be the offensive coordinator. He's going to try to be the defensive coordinator. He's going to try and be all the players, because there are certain owners who stick their noses where they don't need to be stuck.
I agree. What I'm saying is that's the best you can hope for right now if you're a Panther fan, right? The best you can hope for is that Tep has looked at a franchise that's been bad. And maybe it's been bad because of David Tepper. I think that's the case. But you gotta hope, because this is the only hope you have. Save us, Obi-Wan Canellis. You're our only hope. The best hope you have right now is that Dan Morgan, a tough-nosed linebacker and football player, is going to look at Tep and go, my guy, you got to let the football guys do football stuff. The best thing you can do is bankroll us to go win for you. And then Dan Morgan goes and gets Dave Canellis. Canellis, a quarterback whisperer. Fingers crossed. He shows up. He gets BY right. He gets the offense right. Dan Morgan. And I got to tell you right now, you know what I love most for Carolina right now? Looking more and more like you might be able to keep Ejiro Evero as your defensive coordinator. He interviewed with the Atlanta Falcons, got passed over for Raheem Morris. He's interviewed for a couple of other jobs that have already been filled. The only jobs left that he could take are Washington and Seattle. And I believe he's done an interview with Washington. I don't know about Seattle either way. I do not know that he has gotten a second with either. And we are in the second round interview portion of this life. And out there still, Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, some other big names. If Carolina can keep Ejiro Evero in charge of the defense, if Dave Canellis can fix BY and the offense, and if Dan Morgan tells David Tepper to back the up, then you're actually in a pretty good spot. You're actually in a real good spot. Again, this is the optimistic viewpoint that Tep will follow the Haslam model. I am going to build, but when I hit on the right combination of guys, when I get to the right spot, when I figure it out, then I'm going to go sit up in my ivory tower away from the fans so I don't have to sling drinks in anybody's face. I'm going to knock back some high balls while I watch this team win. That's a great spot to be in. And this setup really genuinely feels like that could be it. Retain Evero. Canellis works out. Morgan tells him back up. They fix BY. They fix the offense. The defense maintains consistency. And they're in a real good spot. Real good spot. So I love this, man. I love this. One more quote. Talking about BY, here's what Ian Rappaport said about BY through this coaching hire.
There were times last year, when Bryce Young looked really good. It wasn't a lot because I don't think he was very well coached last year. But there were moments where you're like, I see why they picked him number one. And if let's say I'm a young offensive candidate, which, certainly that makes sense. That's the direction they go. You could say, instead of paying attention to the bad, I'm going to get the good. And I'm going to take a team that, is it a perfect situation? No, none of them are. Maybe if they have the quarterback that they thought they had when they drafted, that's a good spot. You definitely have to deal with some things, but I don't think it's a place people should be running away from.
That's what I'm saying, man. Right? Like that.
I have my mixed reviews about what he just said, though, because, I've even told this to Mark on the show. I said that Bryce Young, yes, he was great. He's smart. He's the smartest one out there. But then the question is he really coachable? I have said this to a bunch of my buddies, too. By next year, by week 6, if you have not seen a significant improvement in Bryce Young, is Bryce Young Ryan Leaf 2.0?
I mean, any quarterback drafted number 1 overall who turns into a total bust is going to be considered Ryan Leaf 2.0 for sure. And the point here is it is too damn early to know, right? I get the vibes that I got from Trevor Lawrence's first season in Jacksonville. We were 8-9 games into that season, and people were calling this show going, Rob, this guy stinks. Why did you tell me that he was going to be an NFL caliber guy? He sucks. And I went, context is important in every conversation you ever have. Context matters in every conversation you have, and you got to put this into context. Who was Trevor Lawrence's head coach when he got to Jacksonville? Pop quiz. Anybody know? It was Urban Meyer.
The sleeper.
It was Urban the Creep Meyer. Okay? Now, Urban Meyer is bad at his job, at least as an NFL coach. Great college coach, not arguing. Pretty good TV guy. I don't like him at all, but a pretty good TV guy. Sucked as a head coach. And created an environment so toxic around Jacksonville. By the way, creates environments toxic everywhere he freaking goes. It's just in college. You want to know why Urban hasn't come back since the transfer portal's in place? Because he coaches colleges like he coached that NFL team. But the NFL teams, the players could say, hey, Herb, do me a favor and go yourself. And the college players at the time could not.
Nope.
Now they could.
Yep.
Herb's never coming back to college because if he walks around and he starts telling all these players where they can stick it, they're going to go, word, I'm out, deuces, later.
Transfer portal.
Yep, they're gone. And he will not be able to run a team that way. Now, put that aside. Point here is it is very obvious in retrospect that Urban Meyer created an incredibly toxic environment around Trevor Lawrence and around the Jacksonville Jaguars. That was not his rookie season to me. His rookie season was the next year.
That's what they were saying, too.
The next year, he looked like a dude. The next year, he went, that guy got it. He needs some time. But his true rookie year, which was the second year, he looked good. I'm going to do the same thing for Bryce Young. Frank Reich was not the guy. This team was nowhere near ready to compete. They threw BY into a gunfight and gave him a Pez dispenser for a weapon. No, he can't. No one can succeed in that scenario. So, to me, this year is Bryce Young's rookie year. I am not going to label him Ryan Leaf 2.0 because he has not had a regular NFL season yet. Let's let him have an actual season under an actual coach, hopefully, fingers crossed, with an actual roster, and then we'll come back and judge him.
That's why I say till week 6.
Dude, I'm giving him the whole year. This is his rookie year. I do not think you would say about a rookie quarterback, we'll know by week 6. You might know by week 6. CJ Stroud, we know by week 6. We're like, this dude's kind of good, right? Anthony Richardson, we're like, by week 6, we know this guy's pretty good. But those guys, I will point out, Houston drafted incredibly well. Guys like Nico Collins. Indianapolis was a pretty good team, and they nailed their head coaching selection in Steichen coming up to be the HC there. Carolina did neither of those things. They drafted very poorly outside of BY, and they completely whiffed on the head coach. So both CJ and Anthony Richardson had a good, not great, good situation, and it made them both look better. BY walked into a dumpster fire inside of a slightly larger dumpster fire and stank it up. I'm going to say this. By week 6 of next year, we may look at Bryce Young and go, there he is. That's the guy we thought we wanted. That's the guy we thought we drafted. Or we might go, this team still stinks. The only outcome I will not be willing to hang on BY in week 6 of next year is he sucks. Now, if you put together, you go get T. Higgins, Jamar Chase, right? You go get Derrick Henry at the backfield. You build the offensive line. If this team comes out with a roster next year that goes, this roster's damn good, they can't. But if they did, in this hypothetical world we're living in, they build out a hell of a roster, and then he comes out and he stinks, then I'll go, all right, you whiffed. You messed up. That sucks. But the one problem Carolina's going to have next year, you can't complete overhaul in this 1 year. You can't. You can get better. You can add some pieces. You could upgrade the roster, but you can't complete overhaul in just a single year, which is why, to me, next year, it is a formative year for BY. It is his rookie year. And by getting Canellis, a guy that has proven now with 3 quarterbacks in a row that he understands how to cater to those guys, I think you might have made a good hire. I still think Bobby Slowick was the guy because of what he did with CJ Stroud, who was actually a rookie, whereas all 3 guys that Canellis has succeeded with were all longtime veterans. I still wanted Slowick, but we'll see. All right, we got to take a break. We'll come back here. We'll wrap up hour number 1. Carolina Panther fans, I want your thoughts. The text line is open at 71307. Start your text with FAN, F-A-N, FAN, F-A-M. We'll read them on the air. The renewal by Anderson to the Carolinas phone line is there for you at 844-326-3663. Give us a buzz. What do you think about the Canellis hire? Right, wrong, indifferent? We'll talk more about it when we come back on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate.
What's cracking? It's Rome here. Playmakers, you know it. Mark Ryan, Rob Brown, and yours truly, Jim Rome in the Jungle. Weekdays at noon on the Fan Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate. It's NFL Conference Championship Week this Sunday afternoon, 3 Eastern. The Ravens host the Chiefs. Then 6:30 Eastern, the 49ers are home against the Lions. The winners go to the Super Bowl February the 11th in Vegas. After missing the postseason for 6 straight years, the Carolina Panthers have agreed to terms with Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive coordinator Dave Canales in hopes to turn things around.
Don't go anywhere.
That's
All right,
BABBEL.com. Start learning a language today at Babbel.com.
Finding great candidates to hire can be like, well, trying to
believe that is correct. Is that better, Skrilla? Are they gone now? Was that the right button? I don't remember which one goes to the stream and which one goes to. Program is the one that sends it over the air. I think utility sends it there, but I could be wrong. Okay.
Downloaded Babbel and started learning Spanish fast.
Want to start getting conversational in another language? In as little as 3 weeks, Babbel's quick 10-minute lessons were designed by language experts to be the most efficient and effective way to learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
¿Cómo te llamas?
No, they go over
language
the air.
For life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's BABBEL.com.
Kelley Blue Book is the one-stop shop for pricing, fixing, selling, and instant cash offering. Instant Cash Offer is exactly what it sounds like. An official offer to buy or trade your car. Just enter your VIN or license plate, answer a few questions about your car's history, and what kind of condition it's in. In minutes, you'll receive an offer to sell or trade your car that you can be sure is fair. Then choose a dealer to purchase your car and schedule a time to meet. For all of the its, KBB.com.
Always streaming wherever you are on the Odyssey app. Make the Fan Upstate a favorite.
All right, wrapping up hour number one, we are spending some time talking about the hiring of Dave Canellis for the Carolina Panthers. We talked about Raheem Morris in the Atlanta Falcons earlier in the show. We'll be talking at length about those guys throughout the duration of the 4 hours. We're also going to talk coming up in the next hour about our NFC and AFC championship games. There is one name that will determine whether or not the Kansas City Chiefs go to yet another Super Bowl. I'll tell you who that is coming up in the next hour of the show. Stay tuned for that. But going back to the Canellis thing, there is one thing that concerns me. There is one thing that concerns me about the hiring of Dave Canellis, and it's not even the hiring itself. Now, again, I do have questions. I do have questions about the hiring of Dave Canellis over Bobby Slowick, over Ben Johnson. Both of these guys are still very much available, right? They're still very much available. And so, you do have to wait for Ben Johnson. And I know that a lot of teams don't want to keep waiting. And if Ben Johnson makes it to the Super Bowl, you're talking another 3 weeks before you can genuinely sit down and have an interview with him. But why not Bobby Slowick? Here's what concerns me. And a part of the reason you got to wonder if Dave Canellis took the job. I heard, I didn't play this clip for you, but Rappaport on the McAfee show was asked about if guys like Slowick and Johnson were actively avoiding the Panthers' job. And Rappaport said exactly what I've been saying. Dudes, even if David Tepper does indeed suck to work for, somebody's going to take that job. There's 32 of them, right? I compare it to this job. I have said many times, how many of your buds, how many of y'all, if you got the opportunity, would talk about sports into a microphone for a job? And the answer is pretty much all of you, right? But there's a reason that so many of us find ourselves willing to work for terrible bosses. Now, I don't. I love my job. I'm very fortunate. But I've worked in some absolutely dog bleep jobs. And the reason why is because of how good it is to be able to crack this mic and talk football for 4 hours and call it my living, right? It's a great gig. And it's wildly difficult to get because there are so few of them and so many guys who want to do it. We're willing to put up with a little bit more than a lot of y'all in the real world would from a bank manager or a restaurant manager or wherever you might work, right?
Can I intertwine on that one?
Yeah, please do.
All right. So I actually had a very good job, which caused me to move up from here, from Atlanta. And I really loved it. It was one of the best jobs I have ever had at this time. The old saying is you don't leave good jobs, you leave bad bosses.
Yeah.
I had a very bad boss. He actually cost me a $9,000 sale, which really hurt me. Thankfully, my other boss was able to save it, so I was able to still get the commissions off of it, which is 10%. But it was just a combination continuously having the same bad things happen that ultimately was like, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I have to leave. I can't risk my family on your inability to be a boss. So yes, people will want to go to coach at Carolina and deal with Dave Temper. But then the question is how much can you take, of them poking you the wrong way and then saying, you know what, forget this and leave? I mean, there is that real possibility.
Look, there is 32 jobs. There's 32.
Mm-hmm.
About 20 of them are held by people who are not leaving that job anytime soon. Realistically, you're talking this year we had a wild coaching carousel where we have 5 jobs open, and that's a lot, right? So the answer to that is subjective. It's different for every person. But I'll tell you, I stuck it out at a radio station one time where I was 6 months behind on pay. 6 months.
Ooh.
They were paying me in July, January's paychecks. That's how far behind we got.
Oh.
I worked for 6 months in a job where I hosted, produced, and engineered the morning drive, the afternoon drive, and I was the only person who put anything together for the station as a whole. I ran an entire station by myself for 3 years, not because it was a great job and paid well. Again, I was 6 months behind. I did it because that was the job I could get in this industry, which has very few slots and a hell of a lot of competition, right? There's 32 NFL jobs. Somebody was taking that job. I'm not worried about that. What I'm worried about is that in the press release that was put out by the Panthers, there is a sentence, there is a quote in there that kind of drove me nuts. It said that Dave Canellis, like general manager Dan Morgan, quote, as with Morgan, Canellis will report directly to owner David Tepper. No, Dave! No, that's the thing we're all saying not to do, guy. Literally, we are begging you not to have the head coach report to the owner. I understand that you want that so that you can demand results, so that you can hold the coach accountable.
Right? What's the point of the GM?
You are cutting out the power structure that you need to succeed. You're not a football guy. You can demand accountability. You can demand results. You'd be a bad owner if you did not. But to ask the head coach, what are you going to do? Hey, coach, so you're running the 4-3, but you're bringing that. You're not a football guy, my man. You're not. You have proven to us time and time again that you're not a football guy. So don't make the football guy report to you. Have the HC report to the GM. Have all the coaches report to the GM. You hired the GM because he's a football guy. Let him be a football guy. And when you want to know where we are as far as accountability, as far as changes being made to get success, then go ask your GM. That's literally his job. You and the head coach should not be having Monday morning meetings. You shouldn't. The GM and the head coach should be having Monday morning meetings. The coaching staff and the GM, the players and the GM should be having Monday morning meetings. You should be sitting in your office, looking at the numbers, looking at the figures. How do we profit? How do we make sure this franchise is treating our fans well? And if you go, okay, we're 1-6, I need an accountability update, you call Dan Morgan and go, yo, Dano, where we at? How'd we get here? Where are we going? That's his job. Let him do his job. Let him cook. Tep, the reason you're in this situation is because you've had every head coach reporting to you and not to football guys to help them make football decisions. You're where you are because of this crap, man. Stop. I'm begging. I am begging you. As somebody whose livelihood depends on this team being better, I am begging you. Don't do that. Let Dave Canellis be a head coach. Let Dan Morgan be a general manager. Stay out of the way. Please. Thanks for listening, Dave. That's 1 hour in the books, kids. We got 3 left to go. When we come back, your water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 stories that you need to know before you clock in and start talking sports with your coworkers. We'll hit that next on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. Do me a favor. In there's a thing called Sports Flash. Play that and then let it run before we go to the commercials. Do you see it?
Oh, Sports Flash.
Yep.
Sports Flash.
Yep. Play that and let me do a Sports Flash.
All right, hold on.
It's time for a Rob Brown Show Sports Flash. The top-ranked Gamecocks women's basketball team went to Baton Rouge to take on the 9th-ranked LSU Tigers, and they'll come back to Columbia with a 76-70 win in an instant classic. Chloe Kitts led the Gamecocks with 14 points, and Bree Hall flushed a go-ahead 3 with just over a minute remaining to give the Gamecocks a lead that they never relinquished. They stay undefeated at 18-0 and 6-0 in conference. Carolina Panthers named Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Dave Canellis their new head coach yesterday. In his first year as OC, Canellis led the Buccaneers to a 9-8 record, a divisional title, and a wild-card round win. Canellis spent time with Seattle, saw a resurgence in the play of Russell Wilson and Geno Smith, as well as Baker Mayfield last year with the Bucs. Canellis and new general manager Dan Morgan spent 8 years together with the Seahawks. The contract is reported to be for 6 years. And the NBA's all-star teams have been named. LeBron James, another accolade with his career, becoming the first 20-time all-star in league history.
The Rob Brown Show. Listen on your computer and tablet.
Nailed
at
that.
The Fan.
Nailed that.
Unique and unlike any other sports talk show. It's BetMGM tonight, Monday through Friday from 7 to 11, only on The Fan.
Upstate.
BetMGM tonight is the red zone for casual and hardcore sports fans. Live sports betting updates for all of the night's games as they happen. Get the latest scores, sides, totals, props, parlays, futures, and much more with real-time, relevant sports wagertainment tonight at 7. BetMGM tonight, exclusively on The Fan.
Upstate.
And on the Odyssey app.
Up to the minute.
Thank you for working with me, sir.
If you're
Sorry,
traveling
I forgot to
between
tell you that.
Clinton and
Appreciate it.
heading to
No worries.
Spartanburg from the 385-26 split on northbound 26, just going to take you 48 minutes. If you're heading to Malden on northbound 385, it'll only take you 44 minutes. We're off to a good start to our Friday morning rush hour. No lane blockages reported right now. From the News Talk 98.9 WORD Traffic Center, I'm Chris Babler on the Fan Upstate.
If you're hiring, it can feel like you're trying to find a needle in a haystack. You can hope the right person comes along, or you can just use ZipRecruiter. And now you can try it for free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. In fact, ZipRecruiter has helped a lot of business owners find their needle in a haystack, like Marco, president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in the last few years, Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist to a store manager to a head mechanic.
ZipRecruiter helps me find
All right, guys,
all the right
stepping away
people,
for just
even
a
the most
minute for the
difficult jobs
halftime
to fill.
show.
ZipRecruiter helps me
So
keep
first
my business
quarter break.
running.
Take it from
LOL,
Marco
I'm better
and
now.
millions of others.
Black Steel's Power Reclining Sofa. Up to $1,000 cash back
on
best in
please
class
share it around to your friends on
appliances.
social media.
$300 in-store gift card with Tempur-Pedic adjustable bedding set. Up to $400 surround sound cash with smart TVs, 65-inch and larger. For the very best service, selection, and price, come to Jeff Lynch Appliance and TV Center's inventory clearance sale.
Golfers, the best upstate deal on golf is back and on sale now. The 2024 Upstate Golf Card gets you a round of golf at 7 premier upstate courses, and it's only $80. Grab your foursome and get your upstate golf cards now to play courses including the Preserve at Verde, Greer Golf, Pebble Creek, Carolina Springs, The Rock, Rolling Green, and more. Order the Upstate Golf Card to get 7 rounds of golf for only $80.
Yep. So we'll do the regular show.
That's upstategolfcard.com.
And then we'll roll into the cheat sheet.
Join us at
I'm gonna
Odyssey
put that on,
as we all do
Wide
our
Orbit
one
2 or
thing.
put it in
Together
the
millions of
rundown?
things for our planet. Resolve to recycle more.
No, put
Recycle
the
paper,
stream.
bottles,
Put
and
it in
cans
the
directly.
channel so you
And
can start
recycle
a video
old
with
clothes
it.
by donating them. When we each share one thing, it becomes a million things for our planet. What's your one thing?
As a mom, comforting my family is what I do best. Vicks Vapor Stick provides soothing, non-medicated Vicks vapors in an easy-to-apply stick. And it dries fast, so there's no mess. I use it to comfort myself and my family.
Thanks, Mom.
Vicks Vapo Stick, soothing comfort for the whole family. And when you need more comfort for yourself, try Vicks Vapo Shower for steamy Vicks vapors.
Use as directed. Vapo Stick for usages 4 and up. Vapo Shower use for adults only.
Get the appliances you need right away at Lowe's. Explore the largest assortment of brands you trust, like Whirlpool, Samsung, and LG, in-store or online at the best values. Plus, take advantage of our everyday financing offers on top items, from refrigerators to laundry pairs.
I have
And
a
there's
Facebook
more.
group,
Get your new
Girl Dad
appliances
Book
delivered or
group.
installed
They're all
quickly
watching
at
right
your
now on the stream.
convenience. Because
A lot of
Lowe's
them are
knows
checking in.
appliances.
Welcome in,
Lowe's
dudes.
knows home improvement.
The Girl
Subject to
Dad
credit
group.
approval.
Yeah.
Love it.
All right, here we go.
It's great because we're talking
The
some
Fan.
Upstate.
Here we go.
Gamecocks got one last night.
Hey, that was a good game last night. Did you see that thing? That was impressive. That is definitely a championship preview right there. Get it.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only
The Fan Upstate.
And here we go, ladies and gentlemen. Our numero dos, the money hour of the Rob Brown Show starts now. This is the Fan Upstate. How do you do, Upstate South Carolina? Welcome in. Wonderful to have you as always. I am Rob Brown. Brandon filling in for the great one today. Feeling a little bit under the weather. Giving him a cut. Listen, it's load management is what it is, all right? Lonzo is the LeBron James of this station. Every now and then, the 20-time All-Star needs a rest.
If y'all saw what he did, you'd be like, holy Toledo.
The dude never stops, all right? He's in
He's
here.
like the Energizer Bunny, keeps going and going and going.
He's in here at 5 in the morning. He's out of here at 5 in the afternoon. He never stops.
Works
Give
on the
my
weekends.
man some load. Yeah, he works a 6-day work week. So do I, but who's counting? 6-day work week. Yeah, he works more than me, and I work a lot. We got a lot to get to in this hour of the show. We've been talking about the hiring of Dave Canellis as the new Panthers head coach, Raheem Morris as the new Falcons head coach. We'll talk about that more later on. The Lady Gamecocks go down to Baton Rouge to take on their new nemesis, Bayou Barbie and Haley, in a battle last night between, I think, the best two women's basketball teams in America. And it was everything we hoped it would be. We're going to come to that here in just a minute from now. We got to start previewing our NFC and AFC championship games coming up at 8 o'clock. We're going to clock in and lock in. I'm going to give you my best bets for the weekend in those two games. We got all of that and more coming up, but it is just after 7 o'clock in the morning. You, friends, if you're one of those poor folks that has a regular 8 to 5 job, you are less than an hour from clocking into work, which means that if you play your cards right, you're less than an hour and a half away from taking your first break of the day. And when you take your first break of the day, you, of course, if you're listening to this show, are going to talk sports with your coworkers around the water cooler. And if you're going to talk sports around the water cooler, you're going to need this.
Are you ready for the playbook of the peculiar, the almanac of the absurd, and the encyclopedia of the extraordinary? Well, you better be, because we're diving headfirst into the 3 top stories that will have your coworkers saying,
You hear that?
Even before they take their first bathroom break.
No.
Here we go. Welcome to the Water Cooler Cheat Sheet on the Fan Upstate.
It is your water cooler cheat sheet, the top 3 stories that you need to know before you clock in at work and start talking sports with your coworkers. We begin, ladies and gentlemen, with item number 1. A pair of head coaching hires across the NFC South last night. Atlanta made it official as they bring in Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris, named the official HC last night. He is the first former NFL head coach Arthur Blank is hired in his plus 20-year tenure. He's also the first full-time black head coach in Atlanta's history. Arthur Blank said in a statement, quote, "This is a historic day for the Atlanta Falcons. We are thrilled to welcome Raheem Morris back to Atlanta as the team's new head coach. Raheem emerged from a field of excellent candidates and is the right leader to take our program into the future." Why would he say welcome him back to Atlanta? That is because if you will take yourselves back just a couple of years, Dan Quinn used to be the head coach of the Atlanta Falcons, now the defensive coordinator for the Dallas Cowboys. And by the way, the front runner to become the new HC in Seattle. I don't know why, but that's not for me to judge. Well, when Dan Quinn was released by the Atlanta Falcons mid-season, Raheem Morris stepped in as the interim head coach. He did go 4-7 down the stretch, but much like Antonio Pierce in Las Vegas, during that 4-7 stretch, the players embraced him. The players rallied around him. It felt like a different franchise, not the one that had been dragged down by Dan Quinn towards the end of his run in the ATL. Since then, he left. He went to Los Angeles, became the defensive coordinator there, and won a Super Bowl as the DC back in 2021. This will be the second stint as a full-time NFL head coach as he led the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to a 17-31 overall record during 3 seasons from 2009 to 2011. But, as I said earlier in the show, context matters, and it matters a lot. The context of that Tampa Bay team, yeah, it had been a couple of years since they had been to and won a Super Bowl behind that Derek Brooks-led team, that Warren Sapp-led team.
Mike
Allstott-led team. That, ladies and gentlemen, a hero of American football, Brad Johnson-led football team. But, to me, they still had not gotten over the Super Bowl hangover. They had lost a lot of talent. Most of those guys had aged out at that point. They did not do a great job of rebuilding the roster. Once they did, I felt like Raheem Morris was really in a crap spot when he took over. Either way, I actually like this hire for Atlanta. I would have liked Ejiro Evero more, but hey, that's just personal preference. I would have loved a Ben Johnson or a Bobby Slowick more for Atlanta, but hey, it's a personal preference. If you're going to go with a defensive mind, Raheem Morris was probably the second best option, unless you include Mike Vrabel in there. I have never questioned Atlanta's culture. That's a football team that has always seemed like they've got it together, except when they get frustrated because the offense isn't performing. We'll talk more about Raheem Morris later on in the show. I mentioned there was 2 hires because our Carolina Panthers also named their new full-time head coach yesterday. It is Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Dave Canellis. We do not have the terms of the deal as of yet, but Adam Schefter reported it is for 6 years. The 42-year-old comes off of a season in which he led Baker Mayfield to a career best in passing yards with 4,044, a career best in touchdowns with 28, a career low in interceptions with just 10, and that comes a year after Dave Canellis helped Geno Smith revive his career. That comes a year after he helped Russell Wilson revamp his career.
How's that going for Russell Wilson, by the way?
I'm going to tell you right now, I cannot blame what happened in Denver on Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson had statistically a better season than Patrick Mahomes did, statistically. Now, statistics don't give you the whole story, but they give you a pretty big chunk. I don't blame him for that. I blame Denver for that. But there's a reason Denver was interested in Russell Wilson. It's because of what Russ did under Dave Canellis his last year in Seattle before he got traded. That being said, I don't hate the hire. I don't love the hire. I'm very skeptical of the hire. On one hand, Dave Canellis has had some success at pretty much every assistant coaching job that he's been at. 8 years in Seattle, a year at Tampa Bay. All he did in Tampa was win the division, lead them to a wild card round victory over the Philadelphia Eagles, a team that was in the Super Bowl the year before. On the flip side, to add levity to the context of the situation, Philly had the greatest single-season collapse in the history of the National Football League, so that win maybe not as impressive as we thought it was when it happened. And he won the division, yes, but the division was, and this is true, very bad as a division top to bottom. So the question mark is Dave Canellis the right guy for the job, or did Dave Canellis get this job because he and Dan Morgan, the new general manager of the Carolina Panthers, are buddy-buddy? They worked together for 8 seasons in Seattle before Dan Morgan moved on to another job, eventually leading him to Carolina, and Dave Canellis moved on to Tampa Bay. Was this a nepotism hire, or was this the best possible hire? We'll be talking more about it as the show moves on. Item number 2 on the water cooler cheat sheet. Father Time is undefeated, but LeBron James is rope-a-doping him right now. Your NBA All-Star selections came out last night, and wouldn't you know it, LeBron James, approaching 40 years of age, is once again an all-star. And I mean, why wouldn't he be? All LeBron's doing right now is averaging 24.8 points, 7.2 boards, and 7.4 assists per game. It is the 20th all-star nod for LeBron James. He entered this year tied with Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who had 19. Now LeBron has more all-star selections than any other NBA player in the history of the league. This year's game reverts to the traditional East versus West matchup. LeBron will be captain for the West, Giannis captain for the East. LeBron joined by Luka Doncic, by Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, by Nikola Jokic, and by Kevin Durant. As the All-Stars over in the East, Joel Embiid leads them because that guy's real good at basketball. Jason Tatum of the Celtics, Pacers guard Tyrese Halliburton, and Giannis and Dame time will start for the East. LeBron has not missed an all-star appearance in his entire career with the exception of his rookie year. He has won 3 all-star game MVPs. He has served as the captain for 6 consecutive seasons. Last season marked James' first all-star game loss since 2017. Your all-time all-starist all-star is nearly 40-year-old LeBron James. Father Time, undefeated, but on the ropes. And that brings us to item number 3. Baton Rouge, Louisiana last night was the site of what I thought, and I think was right about, was the best thing to watch in sports. The LSU Tigers, the Lady Tigers, ranked number 9 in the country in women's college basketball, 18-3. Now, because the third loss tacked on last night as they dropped one 76-70 to Dawn Staley and the Gamecocks of South Carolina. In 22 minutes, Chloe Kitts led all Gamecocks with 14 points on 6 of 9 shooting. She also chipped in 3 boards and an assist. Cardoso, who, by the way, it took a little while for Camila Cardoso to get going, but when she did, 5 of 11 from the floor, 11 points, 8 rebounds for Cardoso, 2 assists, 2 steals, and most importantly, a pair of blocks, both of them on Angel Bayou Barbie Reese. The second one in which she just took the ball. It wasn't even a block. She just went, thunk, nope.
Did you see what she did after she had that block? She gave that look down. It was like, look, you try that again. See what happens in my house.
Bro, if looks could kill, Angel would be toast, man. I mean, Cardoso gave her the death stare, and it was incredible. You ended up having all 5 Gamecock starters in double figures last night. Most importantly, kept Haley Von Lith out of the net. She was 5 of 13 from the floor, 2 of 5 from 3, 1 of 3 from the stripe, and had only 3 assists in that game last night. LSU led for a good majority of the game. They outscored South Carolina in the first quarter 24-18, and then it was South Carolina just chipping away. Outscored LSU in the second quarter by 1. Outscored LSU in the third quarter by 1. This game came down to the late fourth, and when the screws got twisted, when the pressure turned on, it was the Lady Gamecocks who responded, outscoring LSU by 10 in the fourth quarter of this contest. Look, this team, when it got to be gut check time, this team absolutely buttoned down, man. It was fun to watch. You could see that LSU was panicked. Angel Reese got her fourth foul in the fourth because Haley Van Lith gave away a turnover opportunity. There was a rebound under the basket. Angel Reese falling backwards, grabbed Cardoso by the jersey and pulled her down to the floor. That was foul 4. A little while later, Van Lith, another turnover, the dribble drive to the rack. Angel Reese comes over the top with a big arm bang. She's fouled out with 4 minutes left to play. The best player on that team not available for LSU because South Carolina attacked her offensively, got her into foul trouble earlier, and she just ran out of fouls to give away late. It was a spectacular moment, spectacular presence of the Gamecock offense. Listen, they were flat for a while. They panicked for a while in the face of the pressure being thrown at them by LSU. But in the fourth quarter, if a team is going to collapse, that's the spot they do it, especially on the road. And I'm going to tell you right now, I watched every minute of that game last night. That stadium was loud. That stadium felt like a men's Final Four game.
Yeah, it was rocking. It was impressive.
That arena last night felt like a men's final. It was packed to the rafters. And why wouldn't it be? That was the game circled in red across all teams in women's college basketball. That was the one everybody wanted. That stadium was packed to the rafters. It was shaking. I've got a buddy who was there, was texting back and forth. He's texting me going, this is one of the loudest sporting events, underline italicized bold, men's or women's, any sport, one of the loudest arenas I have ever been in. If there was a point where Dawn Staley's girls were going to have the mental breakdown, we're going to be backed off, we're going to be just absolutely taunted into making mistakes down the stretch. Last night was the single most hostile environment they could have played in, maybe have ever played in, and they walk out of there with an undefeated 18-0 record, a 6-0 Southeastern Conference record. The Lady Gamecocks are for real. I got told it was a rebuilding year. Rebuilding what? Another trophy cabinet? Because this team is the best team in America. Let's run to a break. When we come back here in just a minute right now, I've got a few more stories we want to run through in the 7 o'clock hour. We're going to start previewing your AFC and NFC championship games coming up at 8:20. Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast will join us to talk about the hiring of Dave Canellis at 9:20. Abe Gordon of 92.9 The Game out of ATL will join us to talk to us about the hiring of Raheem Morris. We got your at 8 o'clock, clock in and lock in. Your best bets for the upcoming NFL weekend. That's all coming up on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, I got a live read right here. I'll get that and we'll come right back.
the decision maker in your
Thanks for hanging in there.
Do you want more control over your business spending? Meet Ramp, the only corporate card and spend management platform designed to save you time and money. Ramp offers unlimited corporate cards with spend controls you can customize to stop wasteful spending before it happens. Ramp makes expense reports a breeze by automatically collecting receipts and matching them to the right transaction. You'll close your books in hours instead of days. Ramp allows you to see all of your company spend in one place, so you can make quick, informed decisions about your business finances. Plus, Ramp will share insights based on your spending to help you cut costs. Over 15,000 businesses have added up to 5% to their bottom line with Ramp. You can be one of them. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best decisions you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/free. Ramp.com/free. ramp.com/free.
I lock up my Old Spice Fiji aluminum-free dry spray to keep that 24/7 lasting freshness safe for myself. Fresh coconuts, palm trees in the wind. It's like catching waves in Fiji. Actually, I just talked myself into a refreshing spritz of Fiji. My Old Spice is missing! No!
Get the appliances you need right away at Lowe's. Explore the largest assortment of brands you trust.
Yeah,
like
that's how they get you, though.
Samsung and LG, in-store or online at the best values. Plus, take advantage of our everyday financing offers on top items, from refrigerators to laundry pairs. And there's more. Get your new appliances delivered or installed quickly at your convenience. Because Lowe's knows appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Subject to credit approval.
The NFL playoffs live on Odyssey. Westwood One brings you all the action from the AFC and NFC championship games, streaming live on the free Odyssey app. First, it's Kansas City and Baltimore.
Spinning touchdown catch, hit the goal line, Kelsey. He could not have been more wide open.
Then it's San Francisco and Detroit.
Hands up McCaffrey up the right side.
All right. Listen to every game live from Westwood One. Get in the game and download the free Odyssey app today. AUDACY.
Sponsored by Netcoins.
Invest in over 30 cryptocurrencies on Netcoins, America's low-fee crypto trading platform. Take advantage of zero funding fees, fast trading, plus a $25 credit with code NFL2024. Netcoins. Crypto investing made easy. Download the app today at netcoins.com.
Rise and shine, sports fans.
Let's drink!
Grab your coffee and get a jolt of sports on the Rob Brown Show with Lonzo. Now, weekday morning, 6 to 10 on the Fan Upstate.
The Rob Brown Show carries on. It is the Fan Upstate. Brandon filling in for the great one today. Little under the weather. He will rejoin us, fingers crossed, coming up next week. Hope he gets to feeling better real soon. All right. We have talked a lot about Dave Canellis so far. We have talked a little bit about Raheem Morris so far. Let's kind of switch up the conversation and let us start talking NFC and AFC championship games. We'll remind you that coming up at 8:20 this morning, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast is going to join us to talk about the Dave Canellis hiring. And at 9:20 this morning, Abe Gordon of 92.9 The Game out of the ATL will join us. He hosts the Abe TL show.
Love that
Maybe
name.
the best named show in all
The
of
best.
radio. Oh, for sure.
I mean, you got the Rob Brown Show, and that's a pretty good show, y'all.
No, there's no creativity there. I mean, it's branding. It's on point. You know exactly what and who it is.
TL, that is so unique.
But Abe TL is a great name. So Abe Gordon will join us at 9:20. We'll talk about the hiring of the new Atlanta Falcons head coach, Raheem Morris. He is on board with it. Might even throw a Trae Young question at him because apparently the Hawks have decided they want to blow it up.
Hey, you and I had that talk about the other day, remember?
Sure did. So we'll get to that coming up later on in the show. There has been a lot of conversation about quarterbacks, specifically the four still remaining. You got Lamar and Patrick Mahomes in the AFC. You've got Jared Goff and Brock Purdy over in the NFC. Let me tell you something I love about the San Francisco 49ers right now. There have been a lot of folks who have been on the case of one Brock Purdy. That includes me, right? Cam Newton a few weeks ago. We talked about this earlier in the week. A few weeks ago, Cam Newton came out with a list of quarterbacks that were game changers. That list was effectively Lamar and Patrick Mahomes, right? That was the list. I would add one more to it. I'd add Josh Allen to that list. I think he is absolutely a game changer. I think he just plays for a cowardly head coach with an undependable, unreliable group of wide receivers in big time spots. But I would also say that's pretty much it. The list of game changers in the NFL is very short. It's Lamar, it's Pat, it's Josh. That's it. That's the list. Everybody else hopes to be a game manager. Now, there are other guys that are on the borderline. I think Joe Burrow is borderline of being a game-changing quarterback. I think that C.J. Stroud is on the borderline of being a game-changing quarterback. I think Anthony Richardson's on the borderline of being a game-changing quarterback, even as a rookie who missed half the season due to injury. I think there are other guys that could enter that conversation. But for right now, it's Lamar, it's Patrick, and it is Josh Allen, and that's it. On the NFC side, you have two guys that I would have zero problem classifying as game managers in Goff and Purdy. And I think Lonzo nailed it earlier this week when we had this conversation. People hear some quarterbacks described as game changers, some quarterbacks described as game managers, and it's got a negative connotation to them, right? Game manager is an insult. It's really not. My dudettes. On any given year, I would say anywhere between 26 and 30 quarterbacks are game managers. I would say, scratch that. I would say 2 to 4 are game changers. I would say 14 to 16 are game managers. And I would say all the rest are just fillers, just guys who are there until that team moves on to find the next guy that fills into one of those higher 2 categories of quarterback. I would say that Brock Purdy and Jared Goff are both guys that are in that game manager category. And you can win a Super Bowl with a game manager. But a game manager, yes, you can. In fact, I would say the majority of Super Bowls, with the exception of like Brady and Mahomes, the majority of Super Bowl winners, I would say, are game managers.
So you think Jared Goff is a game manager? I think he's a game changer.
No, he's absolutely not a game changer. He's not. He's a very good quarterback. But Jared Goff doesn't do anything that makes a defense go, we got to prepare for him, specifically him. You got to specifically prepare for Patrick Mahomes. You got to specifically prepare for Lamar Jackson. Preparing for Jared Goff is to prepare for a good West Coast quarterback. To prepare for Brock Purdy is to prepare for a good West Coast quarterback, not a specific guy. In fact, let's go back. Let's go through the list real quick.
Okay.
Patrick Mahomes, game changer. Matthew Stafford, not a game changer, game manager. Tom Brady, game changer. Patrick Mahomes and Tom Brady, 3 game changers in a row. Nick Foles, game manager. Anybody want to argue with that one?
I said Nick Foles is a filler.
Filler at best. I mean, game manager at best. Filler might be more likely. Brady, Manning, Brady, game changers. Russell Wilson, game manager. Good one, but game manager. Joe Flacco, game manager. Eli Manning, game manager. Aaron Rodgers, game changer.
I thought Eli Manning would be a game changer because of what he did.
No, absolutely not. Eli Manning was a very good game manager, but you didn't have to specifically prep for Eli Manning. Eli Manning wasn't going to do anything that a really good quarterback can't do. Really good, but a game manager. Drew Brees, game changer. Ben Roethlisberger, probably the most borderline guy on this group.
Yes, he's both game manager and game changer.
Yeah, I'd say he walks the line.
Yep.
Eli's first one, game manager. Peyton Manning, game changer. Ben Roethlisberger, again, I'll let you decide. Tom Brady. Brad Johnson, game manager. Tom Brady, I would say Super Bowl 36, Brady was a manager in his first Super Bowl, but a good one. Trent Dilfer, manager. Kurt Warner, manager. Elway, I would say changer, though I expect some pushback. Same with Brett Favre. Troy Aikman. Honestly, changer. I call Aikman a game manager.
I think he's a changer because of what he did for Dallas.
I would also argue that he was surrounded, much like Brock Purdy, with so much damn talent.
Aikman had tons of talent. Yes.
There are some guys on this list that I would make the argument you could plug in any above-average quarterback and they'd still succeed. And that's how I feel about Brock Purdy this year for the 49ers. Brock Purdy with Debo on one side, Ayuk on the other, Kittle at the tight end, McCaffrey at the running back. Dude, you could plug in Derek Carr and this team would still be here. Really, I believe that. You could plug in C.J. Stroud and this team would still be here. No, not Desmond Ridder. He's terrible. But that's what I'm saying, right? There's 3 tiers. Game changer, the larger game manager, and then a bunch of guys at the bottom who are just fillers. Desmond Ridder's in the bottom group. You can take, I think, with what the San Francisco 49ers are right now, you can take any quarterback in that game manager role, plug them into Brock Purdy's job, and they would be there. But let me tell you what I love about this San Francisco 49ers team. What I love about this team is this. And by the way, Zach popped up on the stream. He said, greatest show on turf gets you a game manager. Yeah, let me tell you why. Same reason Brock Purdy's in that group. Because there is so damn much talent around that guy that I feel like anybody in the game manager role would be able to accomplish something very similar, right? Good game manager, real good. Kurt Warner was a real good game manager. So is Brock Purdy. But they're not game changers. They just have so much talent around them that they get dragged from good game manager into, wow, look at how great this guy is, right? Brock Purdy was the MVP of the league this year. I honestly believe if I plug Derek Carr into the San Francisco offense, they're in the same spot. They are still in the NFC Championship game, and they're still the 1 seed. You got Deebo Samuel on one side. I think the two biggest game changers in offense right now are Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey.
Yes.
Why?
Hands down.
Because they both do the same thing. They can be running backs. They can be wing backs. They can be slots. They can be wide receivers. And no matter how you want to defend that guy, I'm just going to move him somewhere else. And he's going to be more successful there. If you come in with the intention of playing Deebo Samuel and taking him away as a down-the-field wide receiver, great. I'm moving him to the slot. If you do what you can to bring the defense and roll the coverage to whatever side Deebo's on, great. I'll run him out of the backfield like they did last year a lot. He asked not to do that. Still utilize him, not as much in that role, but I'll move him back there. And oh, by the way,
you still got CMC and Kittle.
And Brandon Ayuk.
Yep. You still got all, you can shut down one weapon. Guess what? I got 3 more.
There's 3 more. Look what happened last week. Deebo Samuel goes down after 2 catches with a shoulder injury. What happens? George Kittle comes out, goes for 70 or 52 yards and a touchdown.
And CMC gets that game-winning run.
Yeah. CMC's a monster. I mean, he's a monster. The biggest mistake the Carolina Panthers ever made was letting that guy go. I understand why they did it. I understand why they wanted to move on. It wasn't that they wanted to move on. It was just there was so much value in CMC. You had to make something happen.
But they put everything around Christian McCaffrey, and you see when you have too much on somebody, it really drains them down really fast. Look at Tennessee with Derrick Henry. He had too much on his shoulders, and now he's kind of become the back burner now.
And I also make the argument that in Carolina, they never used him. Kyle Shanahan knew how to use Christian McCaffrey. Yep. He is an all-purpose weapon. He's a Swiss Army knife for running backs. In Carolina, and this was the one thing that made me ready to move on from Matt Rule more than anything else, was the fact that Matt Rule power ran with Christian McCaffrey.
He's
formation,
not built for that.
Off guard. No, he's not. He's not.
He's a
guy you throw
run
back
option.
there. He's a guy back out there. You run RPOs, you run off tackle, you run finesse runs, and every now and then you set him off guard just to make sure linebackers know if you start running, if on the snap, you guys sprint out to the flats, I'll still run it with him.
Mm-hmm.
So you got to stay honest. Shanahan is utilizing Christian McCaffrey the way he should have been utilized in Carolina. And frankly, that Christian McCaffrey with Bryce Young would have looked like an entirely different guy. But let me tell you what I love about San Francisco. All week long, there have been the haters. Oh, dadgummit, I forgot to push the button. The haters.
The haters.
Who like to.
They like to drink their haterade and eat their hater tots.
That have been on Brock Purdy's case. I am one of them. I will acknowledge it. I like Brock Purdy a lot, but I think he's a game managing quarterback. However, and this, as much as it might hurt my sensitive little feelings, what I think, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is what Kyle Shanahan and the San Francisco 49ers think. Well, in the last 3 days, 2 guys have stepped forward to defend Brock Purdy. Brandon Ayuk and Deebo Samuel. Ryan Clark of ESPN, who I like, by the way, and I think does a good job. Ryan Clark said on the 4-letter the other day that the hardest thing he had to do this year as an NFL analyst, said his words, the hardest thing I had to do this year was sit here and pretend like Brock Purdy deserved to be mentioned alongside Goff and Stafford and Jackson and Mahomes and Allen. So like didn't deserve to be in that conversation. Now, that take is not the point that I want to drive at. What was interesting was that immediately Deebo Samuel, a guy that I think is genuinely the key to the San Francisco 49er offense, Deebo Samuel went up on the gram and put Ryan Clark on blast. He's like, y'all don't know what you're talking about, right? I don't have the exact quote in front of me, but he basically said, cap, dog. No, this is terrible. Bad take. Brock Purdy's my guy. And then shortly after that, because once a narrative takes off, obviously you got to ask the guys about the narrative. Brandon Ayuk is on fire, got up behind the podium at a presser, and some young intrepid reporter said, hey, BA, the narrative right now is that Brock Purdy might be the downfall of your football team. How you feel about that? And Brandon Ayuk said, we're here because of that guy. We're here because of what he did. We're here because of how he quarterbacked this team. I would not be me without him. Deebo would not be him without him. We are not here if it's not for the efforts of Brock Purdy. Now, let me make it abundantly clear. I don't believe that to be true. I think there are a lot of guys that you could throw into Brock Purdy's spot right now, and the 49ers would still be this good, because I think Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in football. I think Christian McCaffrey is the best running back in football. I think Deebo Samuel is the most utilitarian player in football. And I think Brandon Ayuk being your X factor in all that is invaluable. And oh, by the way, if Travis Kelce's not the best pass-catching tight end in the National Football League, it's only because George Kittle is. That is 3 weapons that other teams would lose their proverbial boat to jump up there and get, all surrounding Brock Purdy. But what I think doesn't matter, what Brandon thinks doesn't matter, what you think doesn't matter. The only thing that matters is this team the type of team that allows a narrative to crawl into the gray matter, to crawl into the noggin, and start to ding them up a little bit? And the answer is no. The fact that Deebo and Brandon Ayuk didn't just defend Brock Purdy, but went out there and said, this is our guy. We're here because of him. We're not us without him as our QB. That says a lot, man. That says a lot. And that tells me that this locker room is on the same page.
Just because Purdy was Mr. Irrelevant doesn't mean he was not a good quarterback. He's in the NFL. He is a good quarterback. He was great at Iowa State. He has a great Iowa tight end in George Kittle. He has great weapons. Not every quarterback is going to be, Tom Brady without anybody talent. They have to build themselves up. Brock Purdy is the answer for the 49ers. He is going to be fine with them. He is going to be with them for years to come. The people say that Brock Purdy is the devil. No, he's not. He is not. Brock Purdy is really good. I had my reserves about him, but seeing what he has been able to accomplish, I think he is legit.
I'm not arguing he's not good. Never said it. Wouldn't say it. He is good. What I'm saying is Brock Purdy is not the difference maker on this offense. It's the other guys that are. It's Deebo specifically. It's McCaffrey second. It's Kittle third, and it's Ayuk fourth. And I think we've seen that because every time over the past 2 years that McCaffrey is out injured, Deebo is out injured, Kittle is, I don't think Kittle's missed a game in 17 years. Regardless of what guy we're talking about, Ayuk, anytime that one of those guys goes down, Brock Purdy's numbers come down. Anytime that 2 of those guys are out, Brock Purdy stinks. It's been that simple. When he's missed 2 of those guys, Brock Purdy just looks like another average NFL quarterback.
Well, that's for everybody, though.
Again, you take the best way. This is the argument for Bryce Young, in my opinion. BY's not bad. That team's bad. BY's not bad. That roster's bad. BY's not bad. The weapons around him are bad, and it has hurt him. I argue the exact opposite true for Brock Purdy. Brock Purdy's not great. He plays on a great team, and that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. You can win. Again, Brad Johnson has a Super Bowl. Brad Johnson. Why does Brad Johnson have a Super Bowl?
Because he had all that talent.
Because he had all that talent. Because he had Mike Allstott behind him. Because he had good wide receivers. And because he had a defense that was a freaking wrecking ball behind Brooks and Sapp. That's why Brad Johnson's got a Super Bowl. All right? But, again, what I think about this guy doesn't matter. What matters is what Shanahan thinks, Samuel thinks, Ayuk thinks, Kittle thinks, and McCaffrey thinks. And right now, that San Francisco 49er team is a unified front. I love you, Detroit Lions. I'm always an underdog guy. Always have been, always will be. Cinderella goes back to the chores coming up this Sunday because the San Francisco 49ers are going to be juggernaut this weekend. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap up hour number 2. At 8:20, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast joins us to talk about the hiring of Dave Canellis. At 9:20, Abe Gordon of 92.9 The Game in Atlanta joins us to talk about the hiring of Raheem Morris. Between here and there, we got to talk AFC Championship game. Lamar and Mahomes are obviously both very important to their teams. They are the big playmaker for those two teams, but there's another name that I think ultimately determines the winner of that championship game. We'll talk about that and all the other sports stories of the day coming up next on The Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. And the Fan Upstate.
Real sports talk, real sports fans.
The Fan Upstate
Is the sports voice of you, the Upstate fan. Call 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663.
The Fan
Upstate.
I'm Chuck Sanders. Here's the Sports Flash on the Fan Upstate. NHL, the Carolina Hurricanes beat the New Jersey Devils 3-2 Thursday night. Sebastian Aho and Toivo Tervainen each with a goal and an assist. 23 saves for Antti Raanta. Jordan Stahl also scored for the Hurricanes, who've won 3 of 4. Dave Canellis is the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. The team made the announcement on Thursday. Canellis becoming the 7th head coach since Dave Tepper took over ownership in 2018. Men's hoops last night, Campbell beat Elon 78-68. App State with an 84-74 win over Georgia Southern. UNC Wilmington beat Northeastern 77-54. Delaware over NC A&T 90-71. Charleston beat Hampton 107-86. NFL this Sunday, the AFC Championship game. The defending Super Bowl champion Chiefs battle the Ravens in Baltimore. Then in the NFC, the Lions visit the 49ers. The winners advance to the Super Bowl in Las Vegas, February 11th.
All right, what do we got here? Luke said, good morning, stream is back. Today is my last day in the 30s. Oh, you child, Luke. Happy birthday, buddy. Sorry we're not on to wish you a happy birthday tomorrow, but in advance.
Up to the minute, upstate traffic. Checking your ride on westbound 385. You're moving at posted speeds from I-85 past
I will tell you,
to downtown Greenville.
And I mean this.
Also, northbound 185 traffic. That's moving
my
at posted
30s
speeds from the 85
were better than my
junction
20s.
Through Augusta Street.
Genuinely, my 30s have been better than my 20s. My 30s are almost over.
WORD
but my 30s were better than my 20s. I like
on the Fan Upstate.
Your 20s are for fun. Your 20s are for making mistakes. Big fan.
Upstate.
Your 30s are for
97.7 FM Greenville.
having fun, right? When I say 20s fun, I mean nightclubs and women. When you get to your 30s, that's where you start learning to love travel and concerts and music and all that.
Your current trophy
man,
wife
you're gonna
wants a
love
life
it.
insurance
You really
policy 3 times the size of the policy.
Zach said, how do we assess from this angle? Jimmy Garoppolo is very much a game manager quarterback. Brock is a definitely step up at quarterback from Jimmy G. He's young and growing too. I agree the 49ers are loaded in talent, but again, offense looks much better than with Jimmy G. Again, I put Jimmy G.
50 or 60
I think
years old and in reasonably good health. A $1 million policy should only cost about $100 to $200 per month. Big Lou may have a solution for your previous policies as well. You may even save enough money to lighten the load on your new $1 million policy.
Game changer.
Remember, call Big Lou.
You'll see this
He's
in a
like
second.
you, except he's only on number 2. Call Term
Manager.
Provider at 800-700-6898. That's 800-700-6898.
All right,
For
so
$1
three-
million
okay,
in
calm it
term
down.
life insurance
3
that you can
categories.
live with. Call Big Lou at 800
I got game changer, I got game manager, and I got filler.
800-700-6898.
Game changer, Lamar Mahomes, Josh Allen. Like, that's the list to me.
Delicious
You may there may be another couple of guys you want to make the argument for, but those are the 3 guys I think you have to specifically plan for. That's there. Game manager is most every quarterback in the league ends up in that spot. I would argue
Find the Ingles table at ingles-markets.com.
that you put Brock Purdy at the top of that, and I would argue that you put Jimmy Garoppolo at the bottom of this. And just about every other quarterback fills somewhere in there. Just about every other quarterback ends up somewhere in this territory. Guys like Derek Carr are in there. Guys like C.J. Stroud are in there. Now we'll reevaluate, right? Because I think C.J. Stroud's got a very good chance of ultimately moving up in the list.
Indeed,
I don't think Jimmy G does.
Schedule and conduct virtual interviews.
Brock Purdy may one day make his way up into that category, but he's not there yet. Down here is everybody else.
Terms and conditions
That's
apply.
your Ryan Tannehill's, right?
Off on the text line.
At 71307. Keyword.
Thank you all for coming to my TED Talk.
Program show only on the Fan.
Upstate.
A couple of you guys hit me with the yes, Rob. Jimmy G was not nearly as good as Brock Purdy was in the same role. I would argue a couple of things. Number one, another year of development of the Shanahan offense, I think, was a big deal. I would say, number two, I absolutely think that this team added more talent defensively this year, which helped carry. They didn't ask as much out of the offense this year, which allowed Brock Purdy to play a little bit more freely. But, and I just did this whole illustration, I went with the classic John Madden telestrator on the live stream, which you can join at facebook.com/thefanupstate, twitter.com/thefanupstate, the Fan Upstate on YouTube, or the Rob Brown Show on Twitch. To me, there are three categories of quarterback. There's game changer. That is Lamar. That is Patrick. That is Josh Allen. Then there's the bottom level. The bottom, what am I calling it? Rank, I guess. Category, whatever. That's filler. That's Ryan Tannehill, right? Guys that are good enough to be in the NFL, not good enough to really do anything in the NFL. Ryan Tannehill, Desmond Ridder, Marcus Mariota, Nick Foles.
Don't give Desmond Ridder that proper filler there.
It's the best I can give him. If I don't want to create my own, I don't want to create a fourth category. That's too much to keep track of. I'm an idiot. And then there's the game manager category. And I think the quarterbacks, with the exception of the guys that they get their faces on the marquee, right? I want you to think about it this way. When you watch and you look down the NFL weekend schedule any given weekend, right? When you look down the marquee, what quarterbacks do you see in there, right? Like I'm looking at the schedule as a whole. In fact, let's just pull a random week. Let's go to the second last week of the season. On Thursday, Jets, Browns. Any game changers in there? No. Couple of you got a filler in Zach Wilson.
And you got now there is a game manager.
I'll say Joe Flacco was a game manager.
Yeah, Flacco was a manager.
Lions, Cowboys. I'm going to tell you right now, Cam Newton was right about Dak Prescott. Phenomenal regular season, but when it came time that the Dallas Cowboys needed a game changer, Dak wasn't that guy.
Dak is, in my feeling, Dak has never been that guy. I think I feel like he's a filler. Manager. I think he is just a filler.
And that's fine. I would say he's a good game manager, but not a pressure guy. And that makes you a game manager at the best. Jared Goff, game manager. Then I go to Sunday, December 31st. New Year's Eve. Dolphins, Ravens. Tua Tagovailoa, Cam Newton was right, is a game manager. He's a guy that succeeded because he had Tyreek and Jalen Waddle and Mostert and a good talent around him. But another guy that, down the stretch, when the pressure was on, beat the Bills, win the AFC, get the 2 seed. You don't have to go to Kansas City. What happened? Yep. Then you got to go to Kansas City in the wild card round. You should be able to compete. What happened? Tua Tagovailoa was a game manager. Then you got Lamar over there. What did the Ravens do when the pressure was on the line?
Game changer.
56 points because of Lamar Jackson. New England taking on Buffalo. Mac Jones, game manager at the best. I think filler. You got Josh Allen. That's a game changer. These two games, what was the hype about these games? Can Josh Allen lead the Bills to an AFC East divisional championship? Can Josh Allen knock off the New England Patriots and carry the momentum into the final week of the season? Like, we're hyping.
Who said anything about Mac Jones?
Nobody. Falcons, Bears. Justin Fields. We don't know what Justin Fields is yet, so the best I can give him is game manager. Right now, he might be a breakout star. I got to tell you, I think there's a very good chance Justin Fields is playing in Atlanta next year.
Yeah, that's the talk, too.
We'll talk about that later. Titans, Texans. Why did we hype the Texans? Because rookie C.J. Stroud. We weren't hyping him because he is a game manager. We were hyping him because he might be a game changer. Might be. Looked real good as a rook. That's why C.J. Stroud got the hype and not Will Levis or Ryan Tannehill. Raiders, Colts. If Anthony Richardson's playing, that's what we'd be focusing on. Why? Because the potential to be a game manager is there. Is anybody talking about Aiden O'Connell that week? Nope, because he's not game manager at best. Jags, Panthers. Why was everybody hyping Trevor Lawrence? Not because he's a game changer, but because they drafted him to be a game changer. And while he still might be, I'm remaining optimistic, he was not this year. Trevor Lawrence.
Jacksonville had that good epic collapse too, just like the Philadelphia Eagles did.
Sure did. If Trevor Lawrence was a true game manager, they wouldn't have had that happen to them, but they did. We were talking about Trevor Lawrence, not because he is a game manager, but because we all thought he was going to be a game manager, and it has not worked out. The LA Rams. Were we really hyping Matt Stafford? No. We were talking about who? Kyron Williams. We were talking about Puka Nacua. We were talking about everybody in the offense but Matt Stafford. Cardinals, Eagles. Why were we talking about the Eagles? Were we talking about Jalen Hurts? Yes. Were we talking about No. We were talking about Jalen Hurts because he had this huge step up in production last year. Last year, knocking on the door of game changer was Jalen Hurts. What was he this year?
Toilet bowl.
Yep. We weren't talking about Jalen Hurts because he's a game changer. We were talking about him because he was knocking on the door of being one, then he fell apart. Saints Buccaneers. Nobody was really hyping Derek Carr because he was playing very, very average football. Not bad, not good, just kind of good enough to get the Saints within one win of the division going into the last week. Everybody was talking about Baker Mayfield. Why? Because Baker Mayfield, a noted game manager, was winning games for Tampa Bay this year.
They were only predicted to win 4 games this year, by the way.
I would say it was a one-year phenomenon. But for 1 year, Baker Mayfield was a game changer.
I think Baker stays. I had this feeling that he's found his home again.
Oh, he's coming back next year. Todd Bowles has already said it. 49ers, Commanders, couple of game managers. Steelers, Seahawks, game managers. Chargers, Broncos. Why is everybody talking about Justin Herbert? Because most of us who know ball see game changer potential in Justin Herbert.
They want to believe.
I do. I want to believe Justin Herbert can be. I think Justin Herbert might have the most accurate football of any quarterback in the league. The problem is he's been surrounded by trash in Los Angeles
he always has
for years now.
One step forward, but then takes 10 steps back every time. When you think he's going to do it, it's no.
Because every time Justin Herbert hits a groove, defenses shift to adjust it. And Brandon Staley and the rest of that Chargers coaching staff was horrific. And never made counter moves. Couldn't do it. Never made counter moves. Justin Herbert can be a game changer. He's just stuck in a crap situation. Why do you think everybody's jacked about Jim Harbaugh going there? Because he knows how to do that. Jim Harbaugh just took J.J. McCarthy into the first round as a draft pick. J.J. McCarthy's going to be out of the league in 3 years. 3 years he's out of the league. Captain checkdown. Out of the league in 3 years. Jim Harbaugh got him to a national championship. That's why we're excited about Justin Herbert. Bengals, Chiefs. What were we talking about? Man, how good would the Bengals be if Joe Burrow was still good? Patrick Mahomes over on the other side. What was the story of the Packers-Vikings? Look at Jordan Love. Why? Because Jordan Love knocked on the door of playmaker, of game changer down the stretch. There are 3 categories. Every year there are at maximum 4 game-changing quarterbacks. Maximum. Every year there's about 16 game managers, some better than others, and there's a handful of filler spots. This week, we have got 2 playmakers going at it, 2 game changers going at it in the AFC, and we've got 2 very good game managers in the NFC. And we're going to find out which role works out better. We'll see. That's 2 hours in the books. Coming up in the next hour, we'll talk South Carolina women's basketball. Huge win last night on the road at LSU. Rashad Beard joins us at 8:20 to talk Panthers head coach. And Abe Gordon of 92.9 The Game out of the ATL joins us at 9:20 to talk Raheem Morris. It's all coming up on the Rob Brown Show on the Fan Upstate. Time for a sports flash. The top-ranked Gamecocks women's basketball team went to Baton Rouge to take on the 9th-ranked LSU Tigers last night. They come back to Columbia with a 76-70 win in the books, an instant classic. Chloe Kitts led the Gamecocks with 14 points. Bree Hall flushed the go-ahead 3 with just over a minute remaining to give the Gamecocks a lead they never relinquished. They stay undefeated at 18-0 and 6-0 in conference. The Atlanta Falcons have found their new head coach. They signed LA Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris to the head of the team. Morris was one of 14 candidates interviewed by Atlanta and spent a year as Atlanta's interim head coach after Dan Quinn was fired in 2020, but was not retained in favor of Arthur Smith as LA's DC won a Super Bowl in 2021. The NBA's All-Star teams have been named. LeBron James has added another accolade to his career, becoming the league's first 20-time All-Star, passing Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in NBA history with 19. In his 21st NBA season, James averaging 24.8 points, 7.2 boards, and 7.4 assists per game.
Unique and unlike any other sports talk show. It's BetMGM Tonight, Monday through
Zach,
Friday from 7 to 11. Only
my
on the
God.
Fan.
Good to talk to you, buddy.
BetMGM Tonight is the red zone for casual and hardcore sports fans. Live sports betting updates for all of the night's games as they happen. Get the latest scores, sides, totals, props, parlays, futures, and much more with real-time, relevant sports wagertainment. Tonight at 7. BetMGM Tonight, exclusively on the Fan.
Upstate.
And on the Odyssey app.
Up to the minute, upstate traffic. Southbound I-85 looking good as you make your way from Brockville McClimb.
All right, guys, we'll step away for just a minute for the top of the hour break. We will come right back. Please don't go. All right, y'all, we're back. Thanks for hanging in there. Appreciate it.
To learn a new language.
¿Cómo te llamas?
Zach, we had Kevin Thomas on the show yesterday. Or no, sorry, Wednesday. We talked a little bit about the realignment and all that. Dude, there are 8 teams in that region. 8 teams in that region. You are going to play, what's that mean, 2 non-region games this year instead of 4? It's ridiculous. But it's going to be very old school college football. At this point, every game matters.
Language for life. Celebrating 10 million subscriptions sold. Go to Babbel.com and start learning a new language today. That's Babbel.com. Start learning a language today at Babbel.com.
Love the new car, but how did...
CarPro.com, my new friend.
Friend?
Oh, honey, CarPro.com has the easiest, most wonderful way of buying a car. I'm in love.
CarPro.com. You now have a friend in the car buying business, and it doesn't suck. And it's free. CarPro.com.
Jackson Hewitt has a plan to get your tax refund fast. With a buck here, buck there. Here a buck, there a buck, everywhere a buck.
You don't have to wait weeks for your tax refund. Get money sooner with a no-fee refund advance loan at Jackson Hewitt.
On this loan, there's a money today guarantee. E-I-E-I-Do.
Don't settle for chicken feed. Get fast bucks at Jackson Hewitt today. No-fee refund advance loans by Republic Bank offered to eligible clients. Money today guarantee if approved for a loan on a prepaid card. Details at jacksonhewitt.com.
Some people just know the best rate for you
ready?
is a rate based on you.
I'm always
With
ready.
Allstate.
25
Not
seconds.
one based
Oh,
on
James.
Carol.
L.
She's more
Duncan
focused on
was
hitting the
L.
high
Duncan
note
was about to
game.
catch that smoke last night, Jack.
Front of her. Why
I
be a
love
rate
L.
based
Duncan.
on
She's one of my
anyone else?
favorite
Pick one based
personalities.
on you with DriveWise from
I'm real
Allstate.
glad I wasn't in Baton
Not
Rouge,
available
Louisiana
unless
last night because me and
California,
L would have had
subject
some
to
words
conditions,
for what she
rates
did to
may
that
differ
king
by
cake.
several factors, which vary by state. In some states,
Disgusting,
participation in
man.
DriveWise allows Allstate to use your driving data for purposes of rating. While in some states, your rate could increase with high
I
risk
did
driving.
my
Generally, safer
I
drivers
did a
will stay with
2-week
DriveWise.
internship with
Allstate
her
Fire
at
Casualty Insurance Company
D103.
and affiliates
I
of
love
Illinois.
Elle. She's great. She massacred a king cake. It was embarrassing.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville, the official sports voice of you, the Upstate fan.
CBS Sports Radio.
Always live on the free Odyssey app.
Man, check this out.
You're on official Rob Brown Lockdown.
Represents being real.
Yeah.
Yeah, air guitar.
Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
The third hour of the Rob Brown Radio Show goes now. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This
What, no air guitar?
is the Fan Upstate. I'm more of a drums guy, you know. By the way, shout out to John Harkes, former coach of the Greenville Triumph, USMNT legend, joining in on the stream on Instagram. I see you, Harksey. How you living, my guy? Hope you're doing well, my man. Hope you're enjoying the break. We miss you down here, big dog. We got to get you back on we got to get Harksey back on the air soon, man. Team USA had a we'll say disappointing result their last time out in a friendly as they get set for the 2024 Olympics. Got to get Harks in here to talk a little Olympic soccer soon. Harksey, you told me you were going to keep coming on the show, man. I'm going to hold you to it. You screwed up by making that promise, buddy. That's on you. All right, let's get some other sports in here. As we move forward on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate, a lot of things that we are talking about, discussing on the show today. And I want to start with this. I love my girl Elle with ESPN. All right. Elle's the best. I love Elle. She does a tremendous job. Elle Duncan, Sports Center anchor. They send her out to anchor coverage of women's basketball. She was there last night in Baton Rouge, Louisiana, as the LSU Fighting Tigers took on Dawn Staley and her Gamecocks, who, by the way, won their 37th consecutive regular season conference game last night. That is very good. That's very good in terms of basketballing. Very good. Elle Duncan outraged me last night. She had me outraged. She had me furious. I was ready to give. And again, I love Elle Duncan, but I was ready to give her all the smoke last night. Before the game of the pregame show, which I watched the pregame, I watched the halftime, I watched the postgame. I loved it. Every bit of that coverage of that game last night was very good. Before the game last night, my girl Holly Rowe showed up at the pregame show, and she brought, as it is carnival season, for those of you that do not follow along, Mardi Gras Day. Everybody knows Mardi Gras, right? But Mardi Gras is a day. It's Fat Tuesday. Mardi Gras is just one day. And Mardi Gras Day, which is February 13th this year, if you are in the mood to celebrate, I will. You'll see it. Mardi Gras Day is just a day. The 40 days and 40 nights that lead up to Mardi Gras Day, which of course leads up to Ash Wednesday in the Catholic tradition, is called Carnival. It's carnival season. Carnival is what is the parades and the marches and all the partying that most people consider Mardi Gras. It's Carnival that leads up to Mardi Gras, which is a single day. Anyway, point of all this is one of the greatest traditions down in Louisiana, Alabama, Mississippi, where Carnival,
Louisiana, by the way,
down in that area, as a New Orleans native, is a king cake. A king cake is effectively a very light, fluffy pastry covered in a melted sugar glaze, sprinkles on top. It is, to me,
so yummy.
It's the best, dude. King cake is the absolute best. I'm a king cake fiend. I have every year. My family ships me one for my birthday, and I do not share. Like you better be in the innermost. There have been, since I moved here, this is actually statistically true. Since I moved here, I have shared my birthday king cake with 2 people in 4 years. My fiance,
which I hope would be one of them,
and Lonzo, because he had never had one. That's it. That's
Lonzo never had one?
Nope.
No way.
My fiance and Lonzo were the only people I've shared my birthday king cake with. And I'm going to tell you that number will not grow this year. All right.
Oh.
It's not going up. Sorry, buddy. Sorry to everybody. Ain't none of y'all in my circle like that yet. All right. I love y'all. I love y'all. Ain't none of y'all in my get a piece of my king cake circle. Anyway, Holly Rowe brought a king cake to the desk last night before the game. And, you know, they brought everybody a fork so they could dig in, try out some king cake, which if you haven't had one, and listen to me very closely on this. Do not just go get a king cake.
Please try. It's so good.
Do not just go get a cake. If you want a king cake, like you want a king cake, and you want the king cake that makes you go, oh, this is what Rob Brown's talking about. Do not go down to your local corner grocery where they're going to have boxes of them stacked up in the corner and get one. That ain't it. What I need you to do is I need you to go online. I need you to go find a classic New Orleans bakery, Randazzo's, Haydel's, whatever. Go online, and it's going to set you back a little bit, all right? It's going to set you back $50, $60, $70 for one of these. Trust me, you will thank me after you get it.
I got one for you. A good family friend of ours makes these things. I'm going to have her make you one for your birthday.
I'll try it.
And bro, it is the bomb. Angela, you making that cake for Rob.
I'll try it, and I'm all in. I'm going to tell you right now, my bar is very high.
You got to have it, man. I never had it really until I had hers, and dude, it melts in your mouth. It is so good.
My bar for king cake is very, very high. All right. Very, very high. So Randazzo's, Haydel's. Those are the 2 I want you to give a shot to. Okay. They're my favorites. So last night, Holly Rowe brings a king cake to the pregame desk. She sits it down. The girls grab the forks, most of them acting like civilized people. My girl Elle attacks this king cake with a fork like it owed her money. I mean,
give me the money. Give me the money.
And here's the best part. She's like,
where's the baby?
Where's the baby? Now, for those of you unfamiliar with the king cake tradition, I know they do Mardi Gras over in Charleston real good too. All right. Real good too. And I know they do some king cakes over there, and I'm sure there's some pretty good ones. I have not had king cake out of Charleston. I'm sure there's a bakery who's figured it out. All right. The tradition with a king cake is inside of it, there's a little, plastic baby about an inch long, represents the baby Jesus. All right. So if you get the king cake, it is stuffed into the king cake. When you eat the king cake, if you get the piece of king cake that has the baby in it, you are responsible for buying the next king cake. You got to provide the next Mardi Gras king cake. Whether it's that carnival or the next, you got to buy the next one. You don't want the baby. You want somebody else to get the baby. Somebody else gets the baby. That means somebody else gets the next king cake. Elle, my girl, I love her. Elle attacks this king cake with a fork like a jungle cat attacking its prey and rips this thing to shreds. I want the baby. I want the baby. She about cost so much smoke for me on Twitter last night. I'm tweeting her. What? She's on my TV during the pregame or during the halftime show. On my TV. And I waited because I wanted in my head the knowledge that Elle's got her phone in her pocket and it went zzz while she's live on the air from a tweet from some dork in the upstate of South Carolina going, Elle, what are you doing?
If you look at the picture online of her devouring that cake, her destroying the cake, it really is comical.
Bro, she was angry. Like she was angry.
Give it to me.
I didn't get it. Anyway, I genuinely hope that Elle found the baby. And I hope as an apology, not just to her coworkers on the desk, but to all of those who celebrate Carnival and Mardi Gras Day. I hope that Elle that night left Baton Rouge, drove to New Orleans, went to either Randazzo's or Haydel's early this morning and bought a king cake to replace the one that she committed a war crime against on national television last night. Still love you, Elle. You're still the best. I still love you. I really do. All right, got a couple more stories that I want to get in here. We got Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast coming up in the very next segment. Joey says Rob goes full Cajun when he's talking about KKs. You damn right I do, Sha. For sure.
Hey, I'm from L.A., Lower Alabama. I'm from Mobile, Alabama, so we know how them king cake's supposed to taste too.
I mean, It ain't New Orleans, y'all, but it's all right. Mobile
does
a good Mardi Gras.
Mardi Gras started in Mobile.
No, that is
it is true.
You didn't know you were opening this can of worms, Brandon, but you've done it. That is factually incorrect.
No, it started in Mobile.
No, it doesn't. That's what people in Mobile tell you because they're like, please come here. I love Mobile, so that we're very clear. I love Mobile. One of my favorite bars, one of my favorite music venues in the world is in downtown Mobile, Alabama. When I was in Pensacola, regularly drove to Mobile for weekends. I love Mobile. It's a great city. It is not the birthplace of New Orleans, and I know that for a fact because the first Mardi Gras was celebrated by Bienville d'Iberville, a pair of brothers who founded New Orleans. It was started in the mouth, the delta of the Mississippi rivers on what are now called the Mardi Gras Islands. Why? Because the first Mardi Gras was celebrated by them French explorers at the mouth of the Mississippi before any of them cities existed. All right?
So it says, Mardi Gras is the annual carnival celebration in Mobile, Alabama, the oldest official carnival celebration in the United States.
Started
by Frenchman Nicholas, in 1703 in Mobile, Alabama. However, Mobile at one point used to also be in Louisiana. So even though it was started in Mobile, Mobile was part of Louisiana at that time.
Listen, we can fight all we want to fight. Here's the reality, dog. The first Mardi Gras celebration was on the Mardi Gras Islands in the mouth of the Mississippi River before Mobile was a thing, my guy. Like, this is documented stuff. Mobile, now I'll tell you what Mobile's going to claim. Mobile says the first, organized Mardi Gras celebration. They say it's the first city that said, oh, we're doing this. Like, this is our thing. And that's fine. I'll accept that. You can be the first organized. But if you want to go where carnival is at its best, it's New Orleans, Louisiana, and it ain't close. I love Charleston. They do a good Mardi Gras. I love Mobile. They do a good Mardi Gras. There's a lot of good cities across America that do a real good Mardi Gras. There ain't no Mardi. When you say Mardi Gras, what do people think about? Do they go Mobile, Alabama? Hell no. It is Bourbon Street, baby. All right. I did not know we were going to do that in this segment, but it felt appropriate and necessary.
My bad.
Nope. It felt necessary. All right. We got a couple more things I want to get to. Did y'all see this Kayshon Boutte story? Kayshon Boutte, Patriots wide receiver, former LSU Fighting Tiger man, right? Got arrested yesterday. Why did he get arrested, Rob? Glad you asked. It is because when he was a member of the LSU Fighting Tigers, my dude illegally gambled in the state of Louisiana. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, there's a lot of people who illegally gamble in states where gambling ain't legal. If you're betting a couple $10 here and there, nobody cares. Kayshon Boutte, during 22 and 23, deposited $132,147.53 into a FanDuel account. At one point, Kayshon Boutte had won $556,267.58. Then he decided, let's keep going. He withdrew $50,282.36 from the account. That means that over the course of the lifetime, Kayshon Boutte went from $132,147 up to $556. He was up $424,000. And then he lost it all the way down to $50,000. My man lost in the ballpark of $40K. Overall, down $80,000 from where he started. And the fun part is this. One of the bets that he made, remember when LSU played Florida State at the beginning of this year? Kayshon Boutte was expected to be a big part of that, right? Bet on himself on the over yardage of 82.5 yards and an anytime touchdown. He accomplished neither and lost all that money. And now he's been arrested for it. Things are great. Good job, Kayshon. Way to go, bud. Ladies and gentlemen, we have to take a break. When we come back here in just a moment from right now, Rashad Beard, the host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us. We are going to talk a little bit about the hiring of one Dave Canellis, and we do it next on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Live read here, guys. We're coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
Download the Odyssey app and search.
Brought one. Okay.
When you find a
Rashad,
professional
what's up,
on
fella?
Angie to tell
What's going on,
your
guys?
kitchen
Big dog.
remodel.
Yep.
I love it.
What's up, man? This is Brandon.
How you doing, Brandon?
Good, buddy.
Connect with skilled professionals to get
How you
all
feeling,
your
man? I
home
watched a little bit of the
projects
stream
done well.
yesterday.
Yeah,
Inside
pretty
out.
good. It's about what we
Repair,
predicted, about what
Yep.
we said. I think we're
Started
spot
on
on.
the Angie app
Yep.
or visit Angie.com today. You can do this.
Your boy's already
If you're
tweeting
hiring,
this
it can
morning,
feel
too.
like you're
He's
trying
in.
to find a needle in a haystack. You can
Say that
hope
again?
person
I said
comes
Dave's
along,
already
or
tweeting
you
this
can just
morning
use
as a
ZipRecruiter,
Panther.
Oh, yeah.
and now you can try it for
Yeah,
free.
he's pretty active on Twitter.
I like
We'll
that.
see. We'll
Fact,
see how long that lasts because he can
Yeah.
get fried
Find
up real quick if things go
Marco,
south. So
president of operations at Telly Tires and Auto Centers. Because Telly Tires has grown a lot in
I
the
mean,
last few
so
years,
far,
Marco needed to hire everyone from a receptionist
most of the
to a store
tweets
manager to a head
back
mechanic.
at him seem to be
ZipRecruiter
pretty
helps
positive.
me find all the right people, even the most difficult jobs to fill. ZipRecruiter helps me keep my business running.
Take it from Marco and millions of other businesses who've used ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter can help you find the needle in the haystack.
See why 4 out of 5 employers who post a job on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. And right now, you can try ZipRecruiter for free. That's right, free at ZipRecruiter.com/radio. That's ZipRecruiter.com.
Majority of the girl dad group said, "Who's that guy who's talking? He's really loud."
Radio. ZipRecruiter, the smartest way to hire.
Nachos. Hey, I'll take some. And some Frank's Red Hot.
Hey, before we get going, because we're going to focus on the coach.
Nachos with no flavor.
Seen a lot of people talking about trying to move Icky over to left guard. You in on that?
This guy finally gets it.
It's the perfect blend of
I'm on the fence. When we drafted him, I was of the thought that he is a solid left tackle, but he could be a guard as well because of the blocking ability. So
ride the first
I don't know.
Time
I don't know.
Keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply.
The
What's up, man?
NFL playoffs live
How you been?
on Odyssey. Westwood
I cannot complain, man. Really can't. Wouldn't do any good anyways. Hey, nobody want to hear it.
Streaming live on the free Odyssey app. First, it's Kansas City and Baltimore.
Spinning touchdown catch, hit the goal line. Kelsey, he could not have been more wide open.
Then it's San Francisco and Detroit.
Hands up McCaffrey on the right side, in the end zone. Touchdown 49ers.
Listen to every game live from Westwood One. Get in the game and download the free Odyssey app today. AUDACY.
Today, cloudy and warm with a couple of showers and a thunderstorm, high of 69.
Weather brought to you by Daily Harvest. Daily Harvest makes it easy to stick to your goals with food delivered right to your door. Visit daily-harvest.com and use code HARVEST for up to $65 off your first box.
Sponsored by Netcoins.
Invest in over 30 cryptocurrencies on Netcoins, America's low-fee crypto
All right,
trading
10 seconds.
platform. Take advantage of zero funding fees, fast trading, plus a $25 credit with code NFL 2024. Netcoins.
Knock that apart, man. You got this.
Download the app today at netcoins.com.
Get in the game on the Brock Brown Show.
Only on the Fan. The Fan. Upstate.
8:24 a.m. and ordinarily on a Thursday is when we talk some Carolina Panthers football, but it is noticeably Friday morning. Yet, Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast joins the show. Why? Yeah, because yesterday we had Rashad on at this time. The Carolina Panthers did not have a head coach. I said, hey, if we get one, will you come on? Rashad said, yep, gracious with his time. Here he is again for the first time after Dave Canellis hired as the new head coach of the Panthers. Rashad, what's up, fella?
What's going on? Right back at it, man. Let's get it.
How you feeling, buddy? How you like it?
I'm feeling pretty good. I feel pretty good about the hire. I think we were spot on with our analysis yesterday. Kind of called this. Dave Canellis. It kind of guts the Tampa Bay Bucks. They now have to install a new offense. So I think that's kind of a twofold W for the Carolina Panthers. You got a young talent, young offensive mind that's going to be around to put Bryce Young in a position to succeed. And hopefully over the next couple of years, we can start to get the best out of Bryce. So I was of the thought. I wanted an offensive mind guy. And I think Canellis is just that. I think he's gotten hired here a little bit probably before he should have. And we've said that multiple times. We're going to get a guy that's going to be hired probably before his time, but that's okay. Guys like Mike, I keep seeing everybody, nobody else interviewed him. Nobody else wanted him. So why did we want him? Well, nobody wanted Mike McDaniel either before he got there. The Dolphins were the only team that interviewed him, and now they're looking pretty solid in the playoff. Well, they got kicked out, but they were a pretty solid team. You know what I mean? So, again, I think we got a guy, and hopefully, things will get better here in Carolina.
All right, so one of the things that we talked a little bit about, and I want to get the intangibles out of the way, and we both mentioned the word culture a number of times. I have thought, even as somebody watching from the other side of the NFC South, Carolina and the fan base, when they were in the better times, in the before times, had a fantastic culture. I mean, the Bank's a great stadium. The fans are phenomenal. I've always thought this team has a great culture. In fact, I don't know if there's a team in the NFL that has done a better job of keeping the legends, the Hall of Famers, the great players involved and active in the franchise. I've covered their training camp in Spartanburg the last 3 years, and every year I turn around and there's another Panther all-time great who's come down to just kind of meet and interact with the fans. To me, that kind of went away. And you could blame it on Rule or Reich or Tepper or whoever, but it did. Canellis is already on Twitter. He's already sending out tweets. He's already interacting with fans. He already seems to kind of be of this new school age coach that wants to kind of promote the culture as well as the football team. So from the perspective of having wanted somebody to come in and kind of reignite that amongst the Panthers, I got to think, even though he is, like you said, probably early in the development of a head coach, the fact that this guy's hitting the ground running, getting out there, putting his name, his face, his voice out there, I mean, we're all looking at this at the most optimistic possible way, but I kind of like that, dude.
Yeah, I mean, it's good to see him actually have like hashtag keep pounding in his bio now. I mean, that's good. I mean, we all know for sure that the keep pounding mantra goes nowhere. They tried to take that away from us. The chant in the stadium they tried to take away. Fans revolted, and we want it back. So keep pounding is something that we need around, and that's our culture. We keep talking about culture, and that's it. I mean, we have a culture. We just need to keep it going. And you're right. You know, the legends are coming back, and they come around, and we've got a really good thing here. And credit to David Tepper for doing it. I think he's built that. And you know, I'd be the first to criticize him when it needs to be criticized, but he has, you know, he's done pretty well with keeping the legends around, keeping them engaged, and we just need to start seeing some W's. At the end of the day, you know, all this Twitter and being on Twitter and interacting with the fans sounds great, but we need W's here in Carolina, and I hope. And the great thing about it is that he understands the NFC South. That's the beauty of having a guy like Canellis. He has the game plan for the New Orleans Saints 2 times a year. He knows the Bucs offense and defense practice against them every day. So he knows that system. He knows those folks. And, you know, now he's got the Panthers, and he knows he's game plan against us. So he knows what we have. He knows the weaknesses, and I'm sure he knows how to improve upon those. So, again, I like it. On paper, it looks good. But, again, it all boils down to wins and losses. We have to get some we need to see some improvement for the Panthers fan base to get to support him. It doesn't have to be a playoff appearance in year one. That's not what we're asking for. But a good 8-win season would be great because we haven't seen that around here in a long time.
Bro,
and
8 wins might win you the division, dog.
Yeah,
it might.
it might.
It's true. It might. And the bar is low, man. We just need – I hope he understands because it's good to see him on Twitter right now. But that Twitter – our Panthers Twitter has to be one of the most toxic places in the history of Panther Nation, right? It can go south really quick. So we can see him disappear from Twitter pretty quickly if things go south.
Hey, Rashad, I got a question for you. All right. So, you know, there's been a lot of names that have always been mentioned, long-time names mentioned that goes to Carolina. One of them was Greg Olsen. He was mentioned as potentially even being a coach for Carolina at one time. Now, I don't know if you ever heard him on his analyst. He's really good, and he's very smart. He knows what he's talking about. Could you see maybe someone like him joining Carolina's staff and even helping elevate Bryce Young to the next level because of how smart and how well developed Olsen really is in the game?
Yeah, I think Olsen is a great he's a fantastic mind. He's one of the smartest people in the game. You listen to his commentary. He is fantastic. He coaches his sons of, I guess, flag football or Pop Warner team or whatever. Him and Luke, they're out there coaching. It would be great to see him added to the staff. I think in some capacity, whether it's a tight ends coach or somewhere in that offensive mind, where offensive building, where he's a, I don't know, QB coach or something like that. He's been around the game. He is really good. And it's crazy to me, man. He's never been the most athletic guy in the world. But somehow, when you turn on the film, this man was always wide open. That's because he uses brain. He's a very smart player, and it would be great to see him. I mean, you've seen all our players come and say, "Hey, I want to get in the building." You know, heard Cam Newton say that. You've heard I want to be the team president. I think it would be good to Greg. I think he would be fantastic addition to the offensive coaching staff. We'll see. I don't know, but I like it. It sounds good.
All right, let's talk about what Dave Canellis has done. Because I was having this thought this morning. Part of the reason that a lot of folks think he got the job is he was in Seattle. Russ Wilson revamped his career. He ends up getting that trade to Denver. Denver wanted him because of that revamp. Geno Smith comes up. Geno Smith in his first year as a starter under Dave Canellis looked like he could have been the NFL's Comeback Player of the Year award. He goes down to Tampa Bay. He gets a year with Baker Mayfield. Baker just had the most successful year of his career, 4,000 plus yards passing, 28 touchdowns, 10 interceptions, all the best numbers of Baker's career. 3 quarterbacks in a row that fans were very close to giving up on. Kind of had a career renaissance under Dave Canellis. The difference between him and BY is all 3 of those guys vets, all 3 of those guys numbers of years of experience in the league. BY has, in my opinion, not even had a rookie season. I'm not counting this as his rookie year. There was too much toxicity and change and turnover to count that. Do you think Canellis can work that same magic with a guy who is going into, in my opinion, his first year on a true NFL team?
Yeah, there's another difference between what those guys have and what BY has, and that's called weapons. And so that sounds great, the turnarounds. But you got DK Metcalf, you got Lockett, you got Mike Evans, and you got Chris Godwin. Oh, and those are elite caliber weapons that Bryce Young does not have. So Canellis he does have a background as a wide receivers coach. So it's going to be interesting to see him use that background to get us and identify some really good wide receiver talent, because that is the difference. That is the key difference. And I think BY has it. We've gone back and forth at length the entire season defending Bryce Young. I think he has it in him. And I think Canellis is the perfect coach, and which is why I think he got the job. And what you just said, the ability to turn around those guys, the ability to turn around Geno Smith, the ability to turn around, Baker Mayfield. I think that's why he got the job. You know what I mean? But also, you got to add those weapons. So maybe he can pick up the phone. Hey, good old buddy, old pal. Hey, Mike Evans. Hey, you remember me? Maybe we can get him back in the building. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but maybe there is that could happen. And maybe we can draft another guy to add to bolster up that wide receiver core along with Adam Thielen.
Hey, Rashad. Now, according to Over the Cap, the Panthers they said they're supposed to have over $57 million in cap space. What big names do you think they should go after besides, obviously, getting Mike Evans, the GOAT, for wide receivers? Who would you like to see them go after with that amount of cap space?
Yeah, I think we need to focus on the offensive line. I think you need to bring in another offensive line vet, whether it's a guard, swing tackle, swing guard, somebody. We have to bolster the offensive line. I know Canellis. He got Tristan Wirfs over there. He has some really good offensive linemen with the Bucs, and we got to fix it. So offensive linemen and wide receivers. You got guys like T. Higgins out there, a couple other wide receivers. If we don't, happen to get Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley's another one. There's a couple of guys out there that we need to focus on getting and bolstering up the wide receiver. It's all about supporting Bryce. It's all about supporting Bryce and getting talent around and protecting him. So key top targets, and I don't know the list of available free agents off the top of my head for offensive linemen, but it's got to be offensive tackle or guard. You got to protect the interior, because a guy of Bryce Young's stature, he can't have the pressure in his face. You know what I mean? So we need to bolster up the interior offensive line and get some wide receiver talent in the building.
All right, so you got Dave Canellis as the HC. There is other good news with Atlanta hiring Raheem Morris. There's 2 teams left looking for a head coach, Washington and Seattle. We know Vrabel has interviewed with Seattle. Washington, kind of like Atlanta, just pretty much handing out interviews like candy right now. The good news is, to me, there's a better than average chance that Ejiro Evero does not get offered in a head coaching job some year. I think he's very comfortable. I'd like to think in Carolina, he coached a good defense that had 0 offensive support, a lot of time spent on the grass, which is why I think those numbers were probably lower for the defense than they could have, should have, would have been if they weren't asked to play 40 out of every 60 minutes. If Ejiro Evero stays on, this defense last year gave up 22 points a game. This offense just needs to score 23 a game, which would require them, Rashad, to be the 16th best offense in the league to get to that number. Not 10, not 5. Mm-hmm. If they can be average in the NFL and that defense keeps the performance from last year, that's a winning record formula right there. To me, If Canellis is not on the phone with Ejiro Evero, not today, yesterday, the minute Inc. went to contract going, my dude, I want you here, I want you to stay, that'd be a mistake. Is there a shot we see Double E in Charlotte next year again?
I certainly hope so. And we talked about this yesterday. That is the dream scenario, keeping Ejiro Evero around. It builds some continuity. I think that's what needs to happen here in Carolina. You got to have some continuity. And yeah, I agree. I mean, you think about the two. Week 18, Tampa versus Carolina, Ejiro Evero held Canellis and his offense to 9 points. So I'm sure there's a bit of gamesmanship there. Say, hey, real recognize real here. And I said you were pretty good. Your squad was pretty good. And I want to keep you around. So I'm hoping those conversations are being had. Like you said, Seattle and the Commanders are the final two jobs available. And I predict that Ben Johnson is going to the Commanders, and you've got one job available with Seattle. And I don't know what Seattle's going to do, but this goes to why you hire an offensive-minded coach. You're able to keep your defensive guys. I've said that a million times. You need continuity. And I think that is the dream combination, Ejiro Evero and Dave Canellis.
That's one of the knocks at Dave Tepper, right? I was talking to a buddy of mine, an old mentor in radio who's a Dallas fan, and we were busting them up for keeping McCarthy. And his whole thing was like, yeah, I know, but you look at the coaching staff, the players, like it's continuity and you grow out of continuity. Whereas Dave Tepper and the Panthers, you're on your 7th head coach under David Tepper, who has not owned the team as long as Jerry Jones has, who is on the same number of head coaches at this point, actually less, I think. It is continuity. Dave Canellis comes in, takes over this offense. I don't think you have a choice on offense, though, but to just kick this thing down to the foundation and start the thing over. So knowing what we know about Canellis, having seen what we've seen out of him as a quarterback coach in Seattle, 1 year as an offensive coordinator in Tampa, what does this offense look like next year in your opinion?
Man, I don't know. It's tough. It's a tough ask until I see what we do in free agency and what we're going to do with these wide receivers, because we need talent, man. We need talent. The one thing about Canellis' offense is he's going to put our guys in the best position to succeed, especially the offensive linemen, right? There's an article out there talking about him, taking the stress and the pressure off the offensive line by getting rid of the ball quick. And I think that's what's needed here in Carolina. Bryce needs to make those quick decisions, and we need to get a good run game going here. So I don't know. It's wait and see for me. And like you said earlier, we don't need to be a top 10 offense. We don't need that. Just get us top 16, man. And we can see what can happen. So I hope we just see improvement on what we saw and continuous development with Bryce Young, get him comfortable. This is hope for the best, man. I gotta watch some more film on Canellis' offense. I haven't had a chance to dive in, so I don't want to do too many predictions on what the offense is going to look like just yet.
We have been talking the last few days about Cam Newton's comments that got everybody up in a frenzy a few weeks ago, game manager versus game changer. And, he said, look, Lamar and Patrick Mahomes are the game changers. I had Josh Allen to that group, but there's maybe 3, tops 4 in the league. Then you got a whole category of game managers. What can Dave Canellis do aside from get him new weapons? Because I agree with you. I think that's the number one objective right now. But offensively, what can Dave Canellis do to try to bring BY from the bottom of that game manager list to the top of that game manager list, and fingers crossed in the future, move him up into that game changer list, which is why you draft the guy number 1 overall?
Yeah, I think you got to support him with again, we talk about the wide receiver talent. You got to get that. Once you get that in place, I think it's about simplifying the offense. And you got to get a good run game. You got to support him with a solid run game. Rashad White had a decent year for him down in Tampa. And so I think that having a run game, you got guys like, Miles Sanders. We'll see what happens with him. He could have a resurgence. I don't know if that's going to happen. I have very low expectations for that. But keep building on Chuba Hubbard, right? Chuba Hubbard is having an excellent career so far, a career resurgence for him. So support him with the run game, quick decisions with the football, and get guys that can, and put your wide receivers in position to succeed as well. Give them easy routes, in breaking routes, quick slants, get rid of football quick, and win. You got to get guys that can win. So I'm hopeful that again, it all boils down to the talent, man. I think once we get the talent here, I think that's going to be a big step forward for Bryce Young's development and not put everything on Bryce, right? Bryce had a lot of pressure last year. He felt the pressure. He was forced to make a lot of decisions. He made some horrible decisions with the football at the time because of the pressure. Let's take the pressure off of Bryce Young, make it easy for him, and that's what we want to see for Bryce Young, the Carolina Panthers.
Got one or two more for Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast before I get the next question. Deontay said in the chat, nothing wrong with game managers. It's been turned into a bad term. I look at game managers as field generals and game changers as gunslingers, different levels for each one. No, I agree. Like I said that earlier, game managers win Super Bowls all the time. There's nothing wrong with it. Game managers allow your skill position talent to flourish, whereas game changers are supported by skill position talent. That's the whole Brock Purdy v. Lamar thing. Lamar's taking a bunch of pretty good guys and carrying them with him. Brock Purdy is having a bunch of really good players carry him. Again, I think BY right now has to be labeled in the former category, not the latter. We'll see how that develops. My biggest concern about this hire, Rashad Beard, taught me off this path or further down it. We have talked about the fact that both of us agree feels like it's kind of early in Dave Canellis' career to be handing him the visor and the headset to be an HC. But you look at what he did in Seattle, you look at what he did in Tampa Bay, there's reasons to believe. However, there's one thing that concerns me. He and Dan Morgan, the new general manager, worked together in Seattle for 8 years. They've maintained a very close relationship since then. And my concern is that Dan Morgan's first decision as the GM was to hire a buddy, was to make a Nepo hire, was to hire a dude that he's buddy with. And, hey, I just really want to give my friend a chance. I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm saying based on the way decisions have been made in this organization for the past 3 or 4 years, I think it's a reasonable concern to have. And it is my biggest one right now. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I look at it complete opposite. I look at guys being on the same page, right? We've seen it too often here in Carolina where you have two different mindsets. You have two different visions, right? And when those visions collide and you can't get on the same page, you end up exactly where we are right now, where we're hiring two new guys. It seems we're cycling through guys. You know what I mean? So I feel like bringing in these guys that have some chemistry together, they work together for a long time. It's in different capacities, right? Now you got, Canellis, a head coach, Dan Morgan, a GM, the completely different scenarios than it was in Seattle. And so I look at it that, hey, you know what I'm thinking. I know what you're thinking. Now let's get it on track. Let's get on the same track and make the decision that's best for the Carolina Panthers. I'm hopeful that it works. I don't look at it as a nepotism hire. I'm just hopeful. Listen, and I could be jaded just because I've seen it go wrong the opposite way, but I look at them just being on the same page. So I like this. I like that they're on the same page just because we've done the opposite so many times here before.
I dig it. Rashad Beard. He is not only the host of the Panther Nation podcast, he is also the newest public relations manager for the Carolina Panthers. Joins us every Thursday here on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate, making the special emergency segment today with the hiring of Dave Canellis as the new Panthers HC. What y'all got coming up on the stream, man? You're going to do some more breakdowns this weekend?
Man, I have no idea. I'm taking it as it comes, man. It's a lot of news out there. I do coming up next. I do want to analyze who is going to come in to coach on the staff, right? He could be plucking some guys from Tampa Bay or from his old days in Seattle. I think it's going to be very interesting to see how he builds that staff. Are we done in the front office? There's a lot of things that still need to be done for Carolina. So as the news comes, we'll be going live. I mean, there's a lot happening right now, Panther Nation. So we'll see.
Panther Nation podcast on YouTube. Make sure you are searching and subscribing to what I think is honestly the best Panther breakdown you're going to find anywhere. My dude, good to have you, big dog. Appreciate you coming on Friday, brother.
Yeah, man, appreciate you. No problem. Have a blast. Enjoy it. Canellis, or celebrate for now.
There it is. Next Thursday, we'll have a little bit better idea of the coaching regime under Dave Canellis, and we'll talk about it. We'll see you then, big fella.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Rashad Beard, host of the Panther Nation podcast, joins us on Thursdays, checking in today for the special segment to talk a little Panther football. Those of you on the stream, stick around. Come search the Rob Brown Show on YouTube. We're going to stay on the stream all the way up to the end of the show at 10 a.m. I got Abe Gordon of 92.9 The Game in Atlanta coming up in just about 30 minutes from right now to break down the hiring of Raheem Morris as well. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate. All right, guys, quick live read. I'm coming right back. For those of you watching on the PMP stream, feel free to search us on the Rob Brown Show on YouTube. We're going to keep the show rolling. We're back after this.
convenience.
All right, y'all. Thanks for
Because
hanging
Lowe's
out.
knows
Appreciate it.
appliances.
Those of you that
Lowe's
came over
knows
from the
home
VNP
improvement.
pod, good to
Subject
have you,
credit
man.
approval.
Babysitter paid. Pizza ordered. Flowers delivered. You can do a lot of things with your phone, and with Blue Link Plus, you can even access your Hyundai Tucson Limited remotely. Doors unlocked, temperature set, lost car found.
Oh, there it is.
Get complimentary class-leading Blue Link Plus. Just another way we make owning a Hyundai Tucson Limited more convenient than ever. Learn more about the new Tucson and Blue Link Plus at HyundaiUSA.com. Call 562-314-4603 for complete details.
It's a mystery where Old Spice finds its amazing scents like Himalayan sea salt, but I'm thrilled they have because no other body wash exfoliates and moisturizes 24/7 like Old Spice Gentleman's Himalayan sea salt body wash. Now, if only there was a mountain range separating the Indian subcontinent from the Tibetan plateau where I could hide my Old Spice and keep my family from stealing it, my impossibly smooth skin will finally be safe.
30 seconds.
Get the appliances you need right away at Lowe's. Explore the largest assortment of brands you trust, like Whirlpool, Samsung, and LG, in-store or online at the best values. Plus, take advantage of our everyday financing offers on top items, from refrigerators to laundry pairs. And there's more. Get your new appliances delivered or installed quickly at your convenience. Because Lowe's knows appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Subject to credit approval.
Talk to Robin Lonzo. Call 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-FANFONE. This is the award-winning Rob Brown Show. Mornings.
On the Fan Upstate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, in and out for the final segment of this hour. Went a little bit long, but we had to. We had breaking news, obviously, with the hiring of Dave Canellis for the Panthers. Thanks again to Rashad Beard of the Panther Nation podcast for coming by and talking Carolina Panther football with us. Coming up in the next hour of the radio program, we are going to break down your AFC championship game. Lamar versus Patrick Mahomes. Does that have the potential to become the new hot rivalry in the National Football League? We're going to talk about that. Then at 9:20, Abe Gordon of 92.9 The Game in Atlanta will jump on and talk about the hiring of Raheem Morris for the Atlanta Falcons. Nobody got a bunch of Falcons in the hood, so we'll talk with Abe about that coming up at 9:20, and then we wrap it up for the show. We wrap it up for the week. We all go on to NFL Conference Championship game weekend. That's all coming up in the next hour of the show. We got to run to a break. We come back just on the other side and call it a day. I am Rob Brown, Brandon in for the great one, Lonzo. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Sports flash time. The top-ranked Gamecocks women's basketball team went to Baton Rouge last night to take on the 9th-ranked LSU Tigers, and they'll come back to Columbia with a 76-70 win in an instant classic. Chloe Kitts led the Gamecocks with 14 points, and Bree Hall flushed a go-ahead three with just over a minute remaining to give the Gamecocks a lead they never relinquished. The Gamecocks stay undefeated at 18-0 and 6-0 in conference play. Carolina Panthers named Tampa Bay offensive coordinator Dave Canellis their new head coach yesterday. In his first year as offensive coordinator, Canellis led the Buccaneers to a 9-8 record, a divisional title, and a wild card round win. Canellis' time with Seattle saw a resurgence in the play of Russell Wilson and Geno Smith. Baker Mayfield had a career-best season with the Buccaneers last season under Canellis. Canellis and new GM Dan Morgan spent 8 years together with the Seahawks, signed a 6-year contract. The Atlanta Falcons also have their new head coach, signed LA Rams defensive coordinator Raheem Morris to head the team. Morris was one of 14 candidates interviewed by Atlanta and spent a year as Atlanta's interim head coach after Dan Quinn was fired in 2020. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Warning, you are running out of football. Don't panic. The Fan Upstate will remain open
2 out of the 3
spots to keep your playoff pantry stocked.
Nailed 2 out of the 3 sports flashes.
Hear the conference championship games this Sunday.
What are you going to do?
And hear the latest all week.
It's playoff football. Take it one at a time from here.
It's just football.
The end of times.
It's over.
Don't have to be lean times. Your home for the NFL playoffs is a Fan Upstate. Streaming on the Odyssey app.
Up to the minute, upstate traffic.
Well, overall, it's been a pretty good Friday morning rush hour so far. Southbound I-85 is a little sluggish from Brockman-McClyman Road down to Pellman Road, but it's looking pretty good. And once you get past that into Greenville, southbound I-85, no problems. We're moving at posted speeds from 85 all the way up to Highway 26 into Spartanburg. For the News Talk 98.9 WORD Traffic Center, I'm Chris Babler on the Fan Upstate.
Diabetes, high blood pressure, anxiety meds, everyone's on them. If you're a 50-year-old male, maybe a bit porky, and you may even have type 2 diabetes, $1 million of term insurance may only cost you about $200 a month. Call Term Provider. Speak with Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Big Lou will find a term life policy for you even if you have type 2 diabetes, are overweight, or have high blood pressure. Term Provider has helped thousands of people like you who think they can't afford term life insurance. To buy $1 million of affordable term life for you, all you need to do is call Big Lou at 800-700-6898. Lou will make sure the scales are tipped in your favor. Call 800-700-6898. Big Lou will answer your call and work to fit you into a term life policy that you can afford. Remember, Big Lou's like you. He's on meds too. Call 800-700-6898, 800-700-6898, or biglou.com.
You can make the decision right now to get lasting relief from that awful joint pain for 2024. Hey, it's Charlie James. Don't go another year compromising because of that pain in your knee or shoulder. Call QC Kinetics now. QC Kinetics is the nation's leader in regenerative, non-surgical pain relief. Your body has what it needs to restore and repair that damaged joint tissue, and QC Kinetics can make it happen. No drugs, no surgery, no downtime. The future of pain treatment has arrived, and QC has tens of thousands of satisfied patients all over America. People with back pain, hip pain, any pain associated with arthritis or injury. This is not a Band-Aid. This is a revolutionary treatment that can get you moving again, get your life back. And listen, it's non-surgical. If this year is the year you decide to fight back against that pain, take the first step now. Call QC Kinetics. Get a free consultation on the calendar today. Call 864-448-3772. That's 864-448-3772 in Greenville and in Asheville, 864-448-3772.
If you're looking for the most epic place on earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder,
All right,
search
30 seconds there.
really
Not the part.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4.
I'm excited about interviewing, talking to this guy from Atlanta.
Monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Good, man.
I love.
Thanks for calling Discover.
name
This is
of his
Anjali.
Hi, it's
podcast
Jennifer
or
Coolidge.
show, I mean.
I just got an alert for a strange charge on my card.
That was
No
crazy.
problem.
How many
We
people
make sure you're
joined
never held
for
responsible
shot?
for unauthorized purchases on your Discover card. Let's see.
We had
Did
we
you
ended up getting
purchase something from a
225
t-shirt cannon store yesterday?
stream viewers during that
Absolutely
time.
not. No, I already have like 3.
$0 fraud liability guaranteed. It pays to Discover. Learn more at discover.com/credit card. Limitations apply.
Upstate.
WYRD Greenville.
WORD Spartanburg.
WFBC HD3 Greenville. The official sports voice of you, the Upstate Fan. CBS Sports Radio. Always live on the Free Odyssey app.
Man, check this out.
Your unofficial Rob Brown Lockdown.
Represents being real. Yeah.
Unfiltered sports talk. Manufactured locally for the Carolinas.
Lockdown.
This is the Rob Brown Show.
Get robbed.
Only on
The Fan Upstate.
And away we go with the final hour of the day, the final hour of the week. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome in. This is the Rob Brown Show. This is the Fan Upstate. How do you do? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Rob Brown. Brandon filling in for the great one, Lonzo, today. Happy to have him along for the ride. Happy to have you guys along for the ride with us today. Before we get to the sports, I have to tell you, I learned something yesterday. Actually, I learned 2 things yesterday that I just found out about, and I'm in trouble.
Uh-oh.
I am 38 years old. If you do the math on that, it will tell you that I graduated high school 20 years ago. That would be the year 2000. Well, a little bit over, but 2003. This year in May will be my 21st year out of high school. Cool. cool. Anyway, you also know, if you follow this show for any length of time, that I'm a big music guy. And there's really not a genre I don't like. On the Rob Brown Spotify playlist, you will find everything from Beethoven to Lil Baby. You will find everything from, Justin Timberlake to Avril Lavigne to Creed and all bands in between. Why did I specifically mention those three names? It is because I just learned mere moments ago that Justin Timberlake and Avril Lavigne are both going on tour this year.
Wait, what?
Yeah, nope. Those are the names I said. Justin Timberlake and Avril Lavigne. You will also know, if you listen to this show, that Scott Stapp and the boys of Creed are going on tour this year. In fact, coming up in July, they will be playing at the Coliseum over there in the Berg. Rob Brown was one of the first 7 people in the upstate to purchase tickets to go see Creed in concert. Now I found out that Avril Lavigne and Justin Timberlake are going on tour. High school freshman Rob Brown is about to wipe out adult Rob Brown's retirement accounts, because I will be at every one of those shows. Every one of them. Can't wait.
Funny story. When I had a girlfriend when I was 16 years old, I had to go to a Backstreet Boys concert and an NSYNC concert all within a month's period. And so I don't know if everybody remembers, the Georgia Dome was actually the place to go. That was actually a lot of fun going to both those concerts.
Oh my God, we're back again. Bow, bow, down, down. Listen, it's one of those things that you absolutely got relentlessly mocked if you listened to them growing up.
I don't know if you're familiar with it. The internet can be a difficult place.
But I think at this point, with hindsight being what it is, bangers, dude. Just bangers after bangers after bangers after bangers after bangers after bangers. All right, let's get to some sports in here, because we are rapidly running up. In about 17 minutes, we will be joined by Abe Gordon at a 92.9 The Game in the ATL to talk the hiring of Raheem Morris. Let's get some of the tweets you guys, some of the texts you guys have sent in to the radio broadcast so far this AM. Texter says, Rob, I am not eating hater tots.
They like to drink their haterade and eat their hater tots.
But it feels like the Carolina Panthers are just going to suck for a long time. Kinda like the Gamecocks.
The haters.
Look, I also got a tweet earlier at the Rob Brown Show on Twitter from @RLPerry21, who said, Rob, seems like just last year when you guys and the Panther Nation podcast were this excited about the new coach hire. Yes, we were. That is the curse of being a football fan. The curse of being a football fan is that you get excited every time something happens to your football team, because you can't imagine your team would intentionally do something, really, really dumb. But Frank Reich. It happens. It happens. I'll tell you why I'm excited about this one, because the the head coach you have just hired here is a guy with a legacy of being a quarterback whisperer. Now, so was Frank Reich, but the problem you had when you brought in Frank Reich was what you did with the coaching staff of Frank Reich. That is to say, Frank Reich didn't build his coaching staff. Dave Tepper built Frank Reich's coaching staff. Remember, he wanted an all-star staff. He wanted to go get a bunch of dudes that had interviewed for head coaching jobs elsewhere. Thomas Brown, offensive coordinator, wasn't Frank Reich's pick. That was a guy who was getting head coaching interviews elsewhere. Ejiro Evero, not Frank Reich's pick for defensive coordinator. He was just a guy who was getting head coaching interviews everywhere else. So they went and they found those guys and put them together on a staff. And Frank Reich never got to be the guy who built up Frank Reich's career. Now, I'm not saying that Frank Reich would or would not have been more or less successful if he was able to build out his own coaching staff. I'm just saying he probably would have been. But hey, it is what it is. The past is the past. Let's move on. And by moving on into the modern age, what you are doing is you're saying, all right, let's bring in a guy who revamped the career of one Russell Wilson. Let's bring in a guy who revamped the career of one Geno Smith. Let's bring in a guy who revamped the career of one one Baker Mayfield, and see if he can jumpstart the career of Bryce Young. I asked Rashad Beard. I said, hey, look, all the guys that Dave Canellis is getting, justifiably so, credit for working with, they were all vets. They were all guys who had multiple years of experience in the league. BY does not. In fact, as far as I'm concerned, BY is a rookie this upcoming year. Not last year. It doesn't count, but he has one this year. So do you think that he can do the same? And Rashad said, let me tell you what the bright side is. The bright side is Dave Canellis and Dan Morgan have to be on the same page. They're buddies. They coached together for 8 years in Seattle. Well, coached and administrated together for 8 years in Seattle, but they're on the same page, or at least you hope they are, because, again, the curse of a football fan is the constant belief that your team is going to make the right decision. We will find out. We will. Let's see what else we have here on the text line. 71307, by the way, if you want to send a text in 71307, start your text with FAN, FAN, and we will read them on the radio broadcast. My man KT, Kevin Thomas, popping into the stream. He said, Rob, as a Falcons fan, I am not happy about Raheem Morris. Well, Kev, let me talk you off the ledge, if you don't mind. And we're going to bring Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game in here in about 10, 13 minutes to talk about this as well. But I'll give you my thoughts right now, KT. It is this. Relax, dude. Relax. Now, if you're saying that because you were one of the people who wanted Bill Belichick, as the Falcons were the only team to interview Bill Belichick, and they did so twice along with Arthur Blank, having some private dinners with the hoodie. Let me tell you, as a Saints fan, I also wanted you to hire Bill Belichick. I really did. I wanted you to hire Bill Belichick because that was, as far as I was concerned, going to be 2 free wins a year for the New Orleans Saints. Now we only got to play 15 games a season because we're beating Atlanta twice with the hoodie. Why? 2 words: time and control.
He wants everything.
Time, because Bill Belichick is ancient. In football years, he's 1,000. Okay? His system is archaic. His way of running a team is archaic. His offense is archaic. In fact, I argued that his offense only worked because he had Tom Brady. I have even gone one step further to say that if Tom Brady would have been paired up with a head coach and an offensive coordinator who actually ran contemporary offenses, who understood where the league was at any point in Tom's career, Tom Brady might have had 2 to 3 more rings than the 7 he already has. But he did. What he had in Bill Belichick was a head coach who said, hey, I'm not going to coach this team.
Go win it for us.
I'm going to manage this team. I'm going to make sure that everything about this team is set up to get the best out of Tom Brady. There was no other voice in the locker room but Bill Belichick. And that works if and only if you have a Tom Brady, a Drew Brees, a Peyton Manning, a Patrick Mahomes. Somebody that you just got to make sure that they have all the resources they need to be the best version of themselves. And when they do, they're going to go be that. And that's what Belichick did for Hoodie.
Did you see what Thomas Mitroff said about Bill Belichick?
I did not.
They interviewed him recently about Atlanta interviewing Bill Belichick twice. And he goes, I don't think it's a good option for Atlanta just because of what Bill Belichick is he wants control. It's not the style Atlanta is built for.
Nope.
Yes, they have this, quote, camaraderie between Bill Belichick and Arthur Blank, and also because of the whole 28-3 crap that goes around. He said that if Atlanta wants to kill an organization, they would have hired Bill Belichick.
Bill Belichick had a system that very, very much worked.
Back then, yeah.
With Tom Brady. Not even back then. With Tom Brady. That's it. If Tom Brady didn't play for the Patriots, Bill Belichick would have lasted 2 seasons in New England and you'd have never heard from him again. But he stumbled into Tom Brady. And that system works when you have a Tom Brady. I'll tell you the one team that Bill Belichick would have worked with. Kansas City. That's it. Because of Patrick Mahomes. You can basically say, Pat, tell me what you need, and I will make sure as the head coach that it gets installed and implemented, and that is it. If you'd have brought him to Atlanta, the second word, I said what? Time control. Time, he is out of it. And by I mean out of it, and he's in the end of his career. He's not going to be around for another 10 or 15 years. The stability's not there. And also time in that his offense is out of place in today's NFL. The second word is control. He wanted to show up and, as he did in New England, have full veto power over everything. He wanted to be the GM. He wanted to be the head coach. He wanted to be the player personnel director. He wanted to be all those things. And if you are Atlanta, you can't let him do that, which means he's not the right fit. So let's turn our attention to Raheem Morris. Kevin Thomas says he's upset about the hiring of Raheem Morris. Let me give you at least the most optimistic spin here. The last time Raheem Morris was a full-time head coach, Kevin Thomas, you and I were in actually, I was in my early 20s. I believe you were just born, okay? 2009 to 2011, Raheem Morris was the head coach of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And as I've pointed out many times today, the Buccaneers, even in 2009, were still not over their Super Bowl hangover. I believe they were still trying to figure out how to replace the Derek Brookses and the Warren Sapps.
What, 12 years previous to that? Was it 97 they won it, wasn't it?
I mean, it was, yeah. Well, wasn't it? Did they do it with Gruden in like 01 or what? I don't even remember. The point here is it was a long time before that. 2003. It was 03. It was my high school year, my high school senior year. 03, the Buccaneers won it. They had not yet recovered from it was 6 years later, and they still had not bounced back. Raheem Morris took over a Buccaneer program that, to me, was still in overhaul mode. I don't think anybody could have succeeded there. Who was the quarterback when they won it in 2003? Brad Johnson, right? They never found another guy to be the quarterback, I don't think, until Tom Brady got there, right? It just is what it was. I don't blame that on Raheem Morris. And even if I did, it was 13 years ago that he was the head coach there at Tampa Bay. And that was his last year, not his first, right? So he leaves. He comes to Atlanta. He is the interim head coach when Dan Quinn lets go. I have to tell you, the Falcons were bad under Dan Quinn. What did you expect him to do as an interim head coach? Show up and go undefeated the rest of the year? He went 4-7.
A lot of fans actually wanted him to be the head coach after his interim run, too.
A lot of players wanted him to be the head coach.
He was a very much a fan favorite.
A lot of players wanted him to be a head coach. A lot of fans wanted him to be the head coach. And much like many other teams have done, the Oakland Raiders, I'm looking at you, guy with the worst haircut in sports, Mark Davis. They decided not to make him the permanent head coach. And in not making him the permanent head coach, I think they really damaged the locker room a little bit. And that's why it took Atlanta a couple of years. I was say a couple of years to recover. I don't know if they've recovered. If they recover, it's going to be under Raheem Morris, the guy they should have hired 3 years ago when they had the chance. Raheem goes to LA. He puts together a very good Rams defense that wins the Super Bowl a couple of years ago. This year, that defense had no business being in the top half of the league in statistical efficiency, yet they were. Now, I will say this. I am bummed out because I absolutely thought the Atlanta Falcons should have gone with an offensive head coach. And Bobby Slowick was right there. Ben Johnson was right there. And even if you're going to go defense, Mike Vrabel was right there. Positive, I think Atlanta's got, much like Carolina, a pretty good culture. I think they got a pretty good culture. I'm not super worried about the culture in the ATL. I think Atlanta is one of, and I mean this in the best possible way, I love that city, one of the most culturally unique and impressive places in all of America. If it wasn't for New Orleans, Louisiana, Atlanta, Georgia would be the best city in the South. I love that place. It's got great culture. You didn't need Mike Vrabel. Mike Vrabel's a culture coach, not an X's and O's coach. If he was an X's and O's coach, he'd have a job right now. Okay? Raheem Morris is an X's and O's guy. Raheem Morris gets the game, knows the game, loves the game, student of the game. And everybody who has coached with Raheem Morris since he left Tampa Bay has said the exact same thing. Student of the game, gets the game, understands the game, comprehends the game, and knows how to make the game work.
I think part of the reason why they didn't hire Vrabel is because the last Tennessee person they hired was a failure. And the fear is could Mike Vrabel do the exact same thing and be a 7-10 team like it was with Arthur Smith? Just because you're right. There is a culture that Mike Vrabel has. Mike Vrabel also comes from a Bill Belichick system. So again, there is that possibility of, is this team going to be back or is it going to be worse than what it was under Arthur Smith?
I think with Arthur Smith, especially early this season, you could see that the energy for this team really wasn't there. It just wasn't. In fact, you know what? Let's do this. Let's put that aside for a minute. because Abe Gordon's coming up in the next segment. Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game in the ATL hosts the Abe TL Show. He's going to come on next, and we'll talk a little bit about the hiring of Raheem Morris and what it means for this Atlanta Falcons football team. We're going to take a break. We'll come back with Abe Gordon. Then it's going to be What the X is going on, and we call it a day. We call it a week on the Rob Brown Show in the Fan Upstate.
Real sports talk, real sports fans.
The Fan Upstate
Is the sports voice of you, the Upstate fan. Call 844-FAN-PHONE. That's 844-326-3663.
The Fan!
Upstate. Take control of your listening experience with Rewind on the Odyssey app. Missed a jaw-dropping moment? No worries.
The Odyssey app makes it easy.
With Rewind, you can
Is he coming on the screen?
No, he'll be on the phone. All right, guys, we're going to step away for a minute while we get Abe lined up on the phone. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. and dudettes, we're back.
Friday
Thank you, guys.
LiveNation.com. Don't miss Billy, Kip, Larry, live.
Cards issued by Sutton Bank and Celtic Bank. FDIC terms and conditions apply. Are you the decision maker in your company? Do you want more control over your business spending? Meet Ramp, the only
I can't
corporate
wait to talk
card
to
and
him about the
spend
questions I
management
have for the
platform
Falcons.
designed to save you time and money. Ramp offers unlimited corporate cards with spend controls you can customize to stop wasteful spending before it happens. Ramp makes expense reports a breeze by automatically collecting receipts and matching them to the right transaction. You'll close your books in hours instead of days. Ramp allows you to see all of your company spend in one place, so you can make quick, informed decisions about your business finances. Plus, Ramp will share insights based on your spending to help you cut costs. Over 15,000 businesses have added up to 5% to their bottom line with Ramp. You can be one of them. If you're a decision maker, adding Ramp could be one of the best
10
decisions
seconds.
you've ever made. And now get $250 when you join Ramp. Just go to ramp.com/free. Ramp.com/free. ramp.com/free.
No need to check the clock. It's Rob Brown time. Now, weekday mornings from 6 to 10 on the Fan Upstate.
We have spent a good chunk of the morning talking about the Carolina Panthers and their new head coach, Dave Canellis, previously of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now we go to another 25% of the NFC South over to Atlanta, Georgia. We go to welcome in a young man that I've had the pleasure of working with directly in the past. He is an executive producer. He is the host of the Abe TL show in Atlanta, Georgia. And should we try to wiggle some soccer in there, does some work with Atlanta United out of the MLS as well. He is my amigo, Mr. Abe Gordon, back on the show. What's up, young fella?
Oh, not too much, man. We are happy here in Atlanta. Quite a crazy crowd reaction over the past, say, 14 hours or however long it's been. But for me personally, just happy it's not Bill Belichick.
Yeah, you and me and a shockingly small number. All right, Abe, let's start with this. All right. I went on the Atlanta Falcons subreddit last night after the hiring got mentioned, and there's two distinct groups of Falcons fans. There is Group A, which are the folks that are happy with the hire of Raheem Morris. I saw on your Twitter earlier today at Abe Gordon that you are one of those fans. And then there was I don't know if it was larger or just louder group of people who went, oh, you could have got the GOAT. You could have had Hoodie and you passed on him. I think that was a perfect decision. As a Saints fan, I wish you would have hired Bill Belichick. Talk to the folks that wanted Hoodie about why this was a better decision.
Yeah, I just don't love a couple of things about Bill Belichick. And obviously, there's no denying the Super Bowls and the accomplishments he had with Tom Brady. But you also go back and look at his draft history as a personnel guy. He hasn't had a successful first-round draft pick since 2012. Now, I do think Christian Gonzalez, this most recent draft, has a chance to maybe buck that trend. But, I mean, I don't think he signed a first-round draft pick to a second contract since 2012. And so I have questions about him as a personnel guy, and I also have questions about his motive. I don't think, and I may stand alone on this, but I don't think he is in it right now to win another Super Bowl and build another title team. I think he wants to set the all-time wins record and grab that notoriety and move on. I don't know if he's in it for the right reasons. That's a concern. Obviously, the timeline is a concern. I don't think forcing your way into, quote, win now mode is the right way to build a team. And for all those reasons, plus the age, you obviously know you're dealing with a short timeline there. I'm just not in love with it. I mean, for all these people who say he wants to prove he can win one without Tom Brady, didn't he have 4 years to do that in New England? And they got worse and worse and worse every single year since. So I just don't love the idea. I don't know how much he was really into it. And then here's the question for all the people who disagree with everything I've just said, which is totally fine. Everyone's able to have their own opinion. How come the Falcons were the only team to talk to this guy? I mean, if he's truly the unquestioned greatest coach of all time and we made such a big mistake, I mean, at least we interviewed him. How about the 5 or 6 other open jobs that didn't even consider him? I mean, what does that tell you about how he's viewed around the league right now?
Yeah, no, listen, you're not alone in that. In fact, I've been saying a couple of times there were two words that kept me away from Hoodie: time and control. I think A, he's out of time. B, I think the amount of time it would have taken to get him back up with contemporary football would have been just too long. And B, control. Listen, I don't know if he was going to come in and demand the GM job from Arthur Blank along with the head coach job, but I know how much control he would have wanted because that is his coaching style. And then I think you nailed the third thing. I don't think Hoodie was coming back to win more titles. I think Hoodie was coming back because Hoodie wanted to get to that most all-time wins mark, and then he would have bounced, which basically means probably 2 seasons, which is not enough time, I don't think, to change the makeup of that team to be more Belichickian. I think it would have left you guys in a terrible spot versus Raheem Morris, who is young, who is in the midst of his coaching career, who is a guy who is much, much more capable of communicating with younger players on this team, of which Atlanta is comprised of right now. All those reasons are why I think Raheem Morris, even if you didn't give him the job when he was the interim coach last time around, Abe Gordon, was a much better pick.
Yeah, look, there's a lot of things that go into hiring Raheem Morris. And the first thing is, look, we have to openly admit that this guy was 21 and 38 as a head coach. That includes a 3-year stint in Tampa Bay and then partly of a season when Dan Quinn was fired in 2020 as an interim head coach here in Atlanta. By the way, Dan Quinn gets fired at 0-5. Raheem Morris goes 4-7. So you can do the math on how the team improved in that small stretch. But I say that to say this. Let's not bury a guy and never give him another chance again because he fails in his first attempt. Bill Belichick was 8 games below 500 when he was fired as the Browns head coach. Catches on 5 years later with New England, eventually wins 6 Super Bowls. I mean, can you imagine if we were sitting here way back when and saying, how can we hire Bill Belichick? That guy's got a losing career record. Like that's not a reason to not like a hire or not give a guy a chance. And I do think that for Atlanta fans who sat here during this whole process and said, let's not make the same mistake again. Let's not go with a coordinator. Let's go with someone that's got experience. Okay, great. There's a couple guys that have experience: Mike Vrabel, Harbaugh, Belichick, Raheem Morris. For the most part, those were the only names with head coaching experience that were being seriously considered. And obviously the age, Pete Carroll, I guess, as well, though he didn't interview here. But for the age situation between them, the personnel control situation between them, the energy, the creative offensive mind stuff, like it just points to Raheem Morris. Like, does the fact that he's got some relationship with Arthur Blank and relationship with Rich McKay help? I'm sure it does. But for me, there's so many positives. We've seen the comments and the quotes from players, both who are on the Falcons now and guys that have been with him previously. I mean, Jalen Ramsey is talking him up. Grady Jarrett's talking him up. Earlier this year, between the Week 18 game, Kyle Shanahan said that Raheem Morris would be his first choice for a head coach if he was an owner. And so there's no denying how respected he is around the league. And it's just a chance to do this right. I mean, he checks all the boxes fans wanted, right? They wanted young, energetic, charismatic players like whatever. That's fine. He checks the experience. And the most important thing to me, Rob, because I have been really respectful and appreciative of the job that Terry Fontenot has done when he's been allowed to do it, this allows Terry Fontenot to continue building a team as GM. I think he's been outstanding. He hit home run after home run in free agency. And the fact that you're allowing him to continue doing his job and making decisions with these two guys working together, I think it's an important aspect of it too.
So this is Brandon. I am an avid Atlanta Falcons fan, been since '92. I actually saw Prime get into a fight on Monday Night Football in person. That was really cool.
Okay.
So you know that the talk around the entire state is Rich McKay. Why is he still there? And, you know, I understand he has this buddy-buddy relationship with Arthur Blank. I am one of those people who actually wishes he should be gone just simply because he didn't do a good job as a GM. Why is he still making the ultimate decisions as to who the head coach would be? I have a lot of friends who have said they preferred either Ben Johnson or Jim Harbaugh, which I kind of agree with having Ben Johnson just because of the offensive mind that he is and what he has turned Detroit into. Now, with regards to Rich McKay, how much do you think this hire of Raheem Morris was to save Rich McKay's job, or was it just an actual Arthur Blank hiring?
Yeah, so a couple things. Just real quick, Ben Johnson was my first hire, my first choice as well. That's the guy I wanted, so I agree with you there. In terms of Rich McKay, like I do think there's this grand illusion of him coming into Terry Fontenot's office and directing who to get and who to draft, and that's just not the reality. I know you're looking at titles and we're looking at the relationship between McKay and Blank, but the football decisions are not being made by Rich McKay. I agree with you that he has a say in this head coach hire, but I don't think this was his decision over Blank's. If anything, I have a little conspiracy theory in regards to them not hiring Bill Belichick. And I think if you were here in Atlanta and you heard the initial reaction from this city after the second interview, after the first interview even, how negative it was, I think there is a perception that, look, Arthur Blank's a billionaire. He probably is not on Twitter all the time. He may not pick up on these things. I think there's a perception around this city, an anti-Belichick movement, that would have been a real problem if he ended up being the hire. I think Rich McKay, more so than like a power struggle, probably relayed that to Arthur Blank, and maybe that was part of the consideration. But I think it's good that he was in the room. I think it's good that Terry Fontenot was in the room. Look, it's all going to be hindsight. We'll find out if this is a good hire. I think Belichick would have destroyed this franchise.
Oh, I believe so too.
If we're being honest. So I'm happy he's there. Now, the other aspect of this is they have hired Raheem Morris and changed Rich McKay's job title. He's going to slide to back to the business side of AM, the Arthur Blank sports and entertainment industry. He's going to do some more work with Atlanta United. But now there's a situation where Raheem Morris and Terry Fontenot are going to report directly to Arthur Blank. They're not going to be using Rich McKay as a middleman there. So for everyone who's concerned about that, his title is being changed, and he won't have as much say on the football side of things anymore. And some people may feel the damage is done because he was part of the hiring process, and maybe that prevented Belichick. But for me, that's a positive.
We're talking with Abe Gordon. He is a host of the Abe TL show on 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. Let's talk a little bit about Raheem Morris. We've spent enough time talking about guys who aren't the coach of the Atlanta Falcons. Let's talk about the one who is, Abe. You mentioned the stint in Tampa Bay. I have said for a while and gotten a little pushback on it. I honestly, I think Tampa took forever to rebound from the 2003 Super Bowl. Like, I think 6 years later, they still weren't that team. So not only was it 13 years ago, I didn't really hold it against Raheem Morris 13 years ago when he was that guy, but we've seen him rebound. We've seen him succeed. When he was in Atlanta and took over as the interim coach after Dan Quinn, if memory serves me correctly, and you'll recall this better than I, he was kind of in that Antonio Pierce situation where it felt like the players liked him, wanted him back, the fans liked him, wanted him back, and Arthur Blank decided to go a different direction. Does his previous connection with Atlanta and his time spent there and the fact that it seems like the players at the time and the fans at the time had his back, was that a big part of the reason you think he got this job?
I think it was part of the reason. I wouldn't say it was a big part of the reason. I think certainly the accomplishments with the Rams, sliding over there and immediately winning a Super Bowl, helping build that defense out. I think the fact that he is adapting with the game, the fact that he has coached at a relatively high level on both sides of the ball as an offensive guy, but also certainly more well-known recently as a defensive guy. Look, there was some familiarity. There's no denying that in regards to both Rich McKay, but also Arthur Blank. And so that plays its role. But I think even if that weren't there, I mean, this is a guy that knocked out the interviews, was very impressive, has been impressive beyond more than just the Falcons interviews. And again, it just checks a lot of boxes. He is a young guy. They do believe he can compile a very strong staff. He is from a coaching tree, a couple of different coaching trees that have had success in recent years turning coordinators into head coaches. And so I think you add all that up. You explain how much the players do like playing for him, how respected he is around the league. I think it all comes together. But at least for me, there is belief that this guy is probably the one. And again, I wanted Ben Johnson. That was my guy. But this guy's probably the one that does check off the most boxes for what they were looking for.
So let's switch gears here and go to the 2024-25 team. Obviously we're projected to have $37 million in cap space just before whatever happens. There's talks that that Taylor Heineke is going to be gone, which I'm in favor of because that would save about $70 million. Then the next question that comes to mind is, what do we do with Desmond Ridder? Do we let him stay on there as like our third string quarterback or practice squad, or just to get rid of him completely? Because I know we have the 8th pick in the draft, which is has been our signature for the last now 3 years to have the same pick every year. If all goes and says everything correctly, including what the decision is going to be made about Grady Jarrett, we could have over $50 million in cap space. What would Atlanta need to do to get over that 2016 hump and actually win this Super Bowl?
Yeah, I mean, look, the positions of weakness on this team are pretty evident. It's certainly on offense, the quarterback, but on defense, the most important player on defense to me is a pass rusher, and they don't have that. The problem we're having here is if Kirk Cousins is the only top-line veteran free agent quarterback, and that's even if he comes to free agency, how much are you willing to pay him coming off of the injury that he's coming off of? Is there a potential to trade for Justin Fields? If so, how good can he be? Because you're not picking a quarterback at 8. You're just not. So if you're going to go quarterback in the draft, if the Bears are keeping Justin Fields, can you maneuver your way all the way up to 1? Under a new head coach, I think you have to be willing to try and take that pass. Now, that would probably cost you the pass rusher you would potentially take at 8. But even more so than the pass rush, I think you do got to get the quarter. Look, here's the other thing about this, whether it's Raheem Morris or Bill Belichick or Ben Johnson, Bobby Slowick, Mike Vrabel, whatever name you wanted to be the guy, they're all going to lose games if you don't get this quarterback decision right. And so maybe it's Kirk Cousins, maybe it's a trade for Justin Fields, maybe it is finding your way up to pick someone in the draft. But if you don't get that right, none of these coaches are going to succeed to the level they need to retain their job after 4 or 5 years. That's the bottom line of it. In terms of Desmond Ridder, look, he's fine as a backup. I don't think you need to move on from him. He's on a rookie deal. He's not killing you in the cap. I think he can play as a backup, but yeah, he's not starting games for this team. He's coming in an emergency situation, and I think you do have a situation where, depending on the quarterback, depending on their style of play, maybe you find a backup that's a little more directly suited so you don't have to change the offense. But I do expect Desmond Ridder to still be on this team in a backup role next season.
Abe Gordon from 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. Let me give you my nightmare scenario, Abe, as a Saints fan, and just get your thoughts on it. And then I got one or two more before we let you go. Nightmare scenario for me as a Saints fan is that you guys sitting at 8 make a move up a couple of spots and end up with Jaden Daniels out of LSU, the Heisman Trophy winner. You pair him up with Bijan Robinson, with Drake London, with Kyle Pitts, with Van Jefferson. That all of a sudden becomes an offense that is not only fast as hell, but can play laterally and vertically, which scares the tar out of me. You're the GM. You get to dream pick your quarterback for next year. Who's it going to be?
Yeah, look, if we're just throwing picks out the window and I can draft where I want to draft and whatever, it probably is Jaden Daniels. Now, if they're moving all the way up to 1, they're probably going to end up with Caleb Williams. But I love what you're spewing out to me. I think Jaden Daniels combining with what we already have here would be a home run. But in a situation, you're probably not drafting QB2 or QB3. You probably are drafting QB1. I just think that's where you'd have to move, unless there's some real wonkiness where New England jumps Washington with the Bears and the Bears trade a second time and you end up at QB3. Drake May's off the, there's some worlds in which that happens. But yeah, I love the idea of Jaden Daniels, personally, more so than Caleb Williams. But we'll have to see how everyone else grades that out. But any of those quarterbacks, whether it's Caleb whether it's Jaden Daniels, I think they come in, they start immediately. And with the offensive talent here, we obviously, everyone knows this team should have won the NFC South. Like it was an absolute debacle this past season. It cost the head coach's job. And ultimately it's going to cost the starting quarterback for whatever he was, his starting role. There's no reason this team shouldn't have been able to win 10 games this year. And with better quarterback play, they will. And that's the plan for next year.
Abe Gordon hosts the Abe TL show on 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. He is our go-to for all things ATL. Joins us here on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. My man, congrats on the new head coach, buddy. Appreciate you coming on as always, big fella, and we'll talk to you again real soon, partner.
I appreciate it, man. Atlanta Falcons ready to roll. They're gonna take home the South this year. I hope.
I mean, let's not get crazy, Abe.
Rise up.
Let's not go bananas here, bro.
I said hope. That's why I didn't say promise. I said promise.
There it is.
Hey,
like an idiot.
Abe, rise up, baby. Rise up. That's all I got to say.
You got it, brother.
All right. Abe Gordon on Twitter at Abe Gordon. One of those smart guys that puts his name in his Twitter handle. I appreciate that. 92.9 The Game out of the ATO. You can find the Abe Gordon Show on the Odyssey Podcasting Network or 92.9 The Game in Atlanta. Let's take a break. We'll come back. We'll wrap this bad boy up. I'm Rob Brown. Brandon in for the great one, Lonzo. We're back after this on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate.
Upstate.
The sports voice of you.
All right, y'all. Thanks for hanging in there. We're back to wrap
the
this thing
best
up.
values.
You remember how to do?
Plus, take advantage of our
for
everyday
Ken's office?
financing offers on
Do
top
what?
items,
You remember how
from
to do
refrigerators to
Ken's office?
laundry
You done
pads.
before?
And there's
Never done
more.
before.
Get your new appliances delivered or installed quickly at your convenience. Because Lowe's knows appliances. Lowe's knows home improvement. Subject to credit approval.
Look around. You can find cars like these on
E-Digits
AutoTrader,
asked,
like that car
"Where's
riding your
Lonzo?"
tail.
He is
Or if
under
you're tailgating
the
right
weather.
now, all those
He will
cars doubling as
return,
kitchens and
fingers
living
crossed,
rooms
on
are on
Monday.
AutoTrader too. Are you working out and listening to this ad at the same time? Well, multitasking pro. Cars like the ones in the gym
I
parking
shall
lot are
send
for sale
him
on
your
AutoTrader.
thoughts.
New cars, used cars, electric cars, maybe even flying cars. Okay, no flying cars, but as soon as they get invented, they'll be on AutoTrader. Just you wait. AutoTrader.
It's a mystery where Old Spice finds its amazing scents like
guess we got
Himalayan sea
55 or
salt,
56.
but I'm thrilled they have because no other body
55,
wash
but you'll have
exfoliates
to
and moisturizes
time and build that
24/7 like
breakout
Old
to
Spice
get
Gentleman's
it to,
Himalayan sea salt body wash. Now, if only there was a mountain range separating the Indian subcontinent from the
What's that?
Tibetan plateau where
Yeah.
I could hide my Old Spice and keep my family from stealing it, my impossibly smooth skin will finally be safe.
All right, come back.
Text us at 71307. Keyword fan. This is the Rob Brown Show with Lonzo. Mornings on the Fan, Upstate.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, the final segment of the day, the final segment of the week gets going right now. Welcome back. Great to have you. Rob, Brandon filling in for the great one, Lonzo. A bit under the weather. He will, fingers crossed, rejoin us on Monday. We appreciate Brandon's hard work today, as always, and appreciate you guys. You want to jump in here, 71307 is the text line. To wrap it up, start your text with FAN, F-A-N. You can also get at us on the phone lines at 844-326-3663. That is the renewal by Anderson of the Carolinas phone line, 844-326-3663. If you want to get at us in that direction, you're certainly welcome to. You can tweet us at The Rob Brown Show, at The Fan Upstate, if you want to come at us in that direction. All the different ways for you to get in touch with the show as we wrap it up today. So we have talked a little bit about Raheem Morris, head coach of the Atlanta Falcons. We have talked a little bit about Dave Canellis, the new head coach of the Carolina Panthers. I think, going to end on cautiously optimistic for both. Cautiously optimistic. We look at Dave Canellis. He has done good work with quarterbacks over the last handful of years. He got Russell Wilson playing at a level that the Denver Broncos paid so much for him. He got Geno Smith at the level where he was very much a candidate for the NFL Comeback Player of the Year award last year. He got Baker Mayfield playing in a way that earned him his best career numbers this year in Tampa Bay. It earned them a divisional title. Yes, in a trash division, but a divisional title nonetheless, and a playoff win in the wild card round. So top to bottom, I don't think you can be upset with the hiring. I said to Rashad Beard, I have one major concern with the hiring of Dave Canellis, and it is the fact that he had an 8-year working relationship with your new general manager, Dan Morgan. They're boys, dude. And, you know, there are many football teams, realistically more at the high school and the collegiate level, but it is true nonetheless. There are many football teams that fail because their upper management turns into what is effectively referred to as a good old boy system, right? If you want in, you got to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody. You got to have a connection. They're not going to hire on meritocracy. They're going to hire on nepotism. Now, I'm not saying that is what happened. I'm saying if you think that might be what happened, it's justifiable. It is the reason that Canellis didn't really catch momentum with Carolina until after Dan Morgan became the general manager of the team. And so to ask that question, to ask, is that why Canellis caught momentum? Is that why Canellis ended up in that spot? I think it is very much more than fair. So with that said, cautiously optimistic. With Raheem Morse, same situation. I know that there are a lot of people that are upset that you did not get Bill Belichick. Dude, trust me on this.
You didn't want him.
You didn't want him. You didn't want Bill Belichick for a variety.
And look, folks, I'm a Falcons fan, and I did not want him. So I guarantee you, majority of the Falcons fans did not want him.
The folks who did want him seem to be a rather vocal group, right? Oh, we could have had the GOAT. Dudes, you didn't want the GOAT. The GOAT was the GOAT because he had Tom Brady, not the other way around. If it was because of the GOAT that Brady was Brady, I would feel very, very differently about the situation. But you did not have the GOAT because you had, or you didn't have Tom Brady because you had the GOAT. You had the GOAT because you had Tom Brady. You didn't want to hand him control of your football program when he is already proving to you that without Brady, he's just another coach. Raheem Morris, we don't know yet. Raheem Morris is a dude that has had a couple of chances at an HC job, did not go well in Tampa. I blamed it on Tampa, not on Raheem Morris. It did not go well as the interim coach under Dan Quinn or after Dan Quinn in Atlanta. But I would also point out what Dan Quinn did to Atlanta before he got up out of there. That team was struggling when Raheem Morris took over. I don't blame that on him either. I just don't. So, ladies and gentlemen, there you have it. Cautiously optimistic about both hires.
Do you remember when the NFC South was the division to beat in the NFL, though? It used to be like every team wanted to go, I want to be like the NFC South where you have 3 12-win teams.
Yep. I mean, you had, and this is obviously during the Drew Brees era in New Orleans. You had Tampa that was playing really well. New Orleans and Tampa when Brady was there battled for the NFC South. And shockingly, I know Carolina used to be good long time ago.
Remember, they were 15-0 going to Atlanta. So it wasn't that long ago that they were a 15-win team.
Yep. Ladies, gentlemen, boys, girls, children of all ages, that's going to do it for the show. That's going to do it for the week. I appreciate all of you being here today. Follow me on Twitter at The Rob Brown Show, because after this, I am headed to the Greenville Triumphs headquarters downtown, a massive signing for Greenville. Sebastian Vasquez, who is a former MLS player from right here in the upstate, signing with the Triumph for the 2024 season. I am headed down there right now to have a one-on-one sit-down with Sebastian Vasquez. I will bring you the results and the audio from that coming up on Monday's show. Have a great weekend, ladies and gentlemen. Don't drink and drive. I'll punch you in the face. Thanks to Brandon for sitting in for the great one, Lonzo. We'll see you back here on Monday to do it all over again, but better on the Rob Brown Show and the Fan Upstate. Yeah!
The Jungle with Jim Rome. Weekdays at noon. Offsides with Mark Ryan at 3.
The best sports talk all day.
Every day. Only on the Fan Upstate.
All right, guys and gals, thank you guys very much for being here. We appreciate it. I got a jet because I've got a sit-down with Sebastian Vasquez coming up after the show today. We'll see you guys back here on Monday.
Casual and hardcore sports fans. Live sports betting updates for all of the night's games and